The day is done. The last email has been sent. The final door has been locked. The noise of the world outside has finally faded to a distant hum. Your body sinks into the softness of your bed, and there is a sigh, a release of physical tension. But the mind does not follow so easily. In the stillness of the room, a different kind of noise begins to rise. It is the echo of conversations, the weight of expectations, the endless list of tasks for tomorrow. The quiet of the night does not bring peace. It simply creates a vast, empty stage for your anxieties to perform. You replay moments, edit conversations that can never be changed, and rehearse for futures that may never arrive. Your mind is like a turbulent ocean, trapped within the skull, and you are a tiny boat tossed on its waves. This is the subtle suffering of modern life, the feeling of being constantly overwhelmed, of running a race with no finish line. We seek rest, but find only restlessness. We seek silence, but find only the clamor of our own thoughts. It is a profound and lonely struggle, shared by so many in the quiet hours before dawn. But what if this darkness was not an adversary? What if the silence was not empty, but full of potential? For thousands of years, in monasteries and quiet caves, seekers have understood that the night holds a special power. It is a time when the distractions of the world fall away, leaving us with the raw material of our own consciousness. It is the perfect time for healing, for understanding, for returning to ourselves. This journey we are about to embark on is rooted in that ancient wisdom. It is not about forcing the mind into submission, but about gently inviting it to be still. It is not about adding more rules or beliefs, but about uncovering the peace that already exists within you, buried beneath the layers of stress and fear. We will use the timeless teachings of the Buddha, not as rigid doctrines, but as a gentle map to navigate our inner world. We will use the sacred sounds of mantras, not as magic spells, but as sonic vibrations that can soothe the heart and protect the mind. Think of this as a hand reaching out in the dark, a quiet voice whispering that you are not alone, and that peace is not only possible, it is your very nature. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to achieve. Simply rest, simply listen, and allow the wisdom of the ages to be your lullaby. The journey begins now, with a single, sacred pause. We begin here, in this moment, with a single, sacred pause. In our world, the word pause is often misunderstood. It is seen as a sign of weakness, a moment of inefficiency, a gap in productivity. We are taught from a young age to fill every moment, to check our phones in the elevator, to listen to podcasts while we walk, to plan our next day while we eat our dinner. The idea of simply stopping, of doing nothing, can feel profoundly uncomfortable, even frightening. It can feel like a waste of precious time. But the wisdom of the ages teaches us something entirely different. The sacred pause is not an absence of action. It is an action in itself. It is a conscious, deliberate act of reclaiming your life from the relentless current of doing. It is the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself. Imagine a master archer. Before she releases the arrow, there is a moment of absolute stillness. A pause where all her energy, focus, and intention are gathered. The power of the shot is born from that stillness. The pause is not wasted time. It is the source of the arrow's flight. Your life is no different. By allowing yourself to pause, you are not giving up. You are gathering your strength. You are clarifying your intention. You are coming home to yourself. This is not laziness. This is a quiet rebellion against a world that tells you that your worth is measured by your output. Tonight, you are invited to join this rebellion, to claim this sacred pause as your own. And the first step in this practice is to realize that you are already in a perfect place to begin. You do not need a special cushion, a remote mountain cave, or a silent monastery. Your own bed, right here and now, can become the most sacred space on earth. The sacredness does not come from the outside. It is not in candles or incense, though those things can be beautiful. The sacredness is in quality of attention that you bring to your experience. It is a shift in perception. Right now, feel the weight of the blanket on your body. You can experience this as a simple pressure, or you can choose to feel it as an embrace. Imagine the blanket is like the loving arms of the earth itself, holding you, grounding you, reassuring you that you are safe. Feel the pillow beneath your head. You can experience it as just a cushion, or you can choose to feel it as a gentle hand, willing to receive the full weight of your thoughts and worries. Intend, just for this moment, to let the pillow hold them for you. You don't need to figure them out. You just need to let them rest. Notice the darkness around you. You can see it as an empty void, or you can choose to see it as a soft, velvet cloak, protecting you from the harshness of the world. This darkness does not want to frighten you, it wants to heal you. It gives you permission to be unseen, to be unjudged, to finally take off the masks you wear all day long. By bringing this gentle, poetic awareness to your immediate surroundings, you transform your bed from a place of restless struggle into a sanctuary. You create a temple, and the only requirement for entry is your willingness to be still. You are giving yourself permission to not know the answers, permission to not fix anything, permission to simply be. This is the foundation from which all peace grows. There is a reason why this practice is so potent in the deep of the night. During the day, we are constantly defining ourselves by our roles. You are an employee, a boss, a parent, a child, a friend, a customer. Each role comes with a script, a costume, a set of expectations. We perform, we strive, we manage impressions. We are so busy being somebody that we forget who we are when all the roles are stripped away. The night is the great undressing. The costumes are put away. The audience has gone home. The stage is empty. All that is left is you. And this can feel terrifying. The mind, accustomed to constant performance, does not know what to do with this emptiness, so it panaroos. It rushes to fill the void with anxieties, plans, and memories. It creates a storm of thought to avoid the profound silence of its own nature. But this is where the opportunity lies. This is the great gift of the night. With the world's demands finally silenced, we have a chance to listen to a much deeper, quieter voice. The night is a natural retreat. It is a vast, dark, silent teacher. It shows us our own mind with unflinching clarity. It invites us to see that the chaos is not coming from the outside world, but from within. And if it comes from within, it can be calmed from within. The darkness is not your enemy. It is a mirror, reflecting your own inner state so that you can finally begin to understand it and to heal it. It is a time when the sediment of a long day, the dust and dirt of 1,000 small agitations, can finally settle to the bottom, revealing the natural clarity of the water of your mind. There is an old story about a young, eager student who came to a Zen master. "Master," he said, "I want to find peace. I will do anything. I will meditate for 12 hours a day if I have to." The master smiled gently and said, "There is no need for that. For today, your only task is to go into that room and sit still for 1 hour. Do not do anything, just sit." The student, thinking this was an easy task, confidently went into the room and sat down. After 1 minute, his leg began to itch. After 2 minutes, he remembered an argument he had that morning. After 5 minutes, he was planning his dinner. After 10 minutes, he was in a state of profound agitation. He felt he was wasting his time, that he should be doing something to achieve peace. He could barely last 20 minutes before he burst out of the room. "Master, I cannot do it," he exclaimed. "My mind will not be still. My body will not be still. It is impossible." The master looked at him with great compassion. "I did not ask you to force your mind to be still," he said. "I did not ask you to force your body to be still. I only asked you to sit." The practice was not to achieve perfect stillness. The practice was to become intimate with your own restlessness, to watch it, to feel it, without judgment. That gentle watching, that kind awareness, that is the beginning of stillness. This is the heart of our practice tonight. We are not trying to force the waves of our mind to stop. We are learning to sit on the shore and watch them with kindness and curiosity. And how do we begin to do that? We start with the simplest, most honest, and most present reality in our entire existence. We start with the breath. It is always with you. It asks for nothing. It moves in and out, a steady, faithful rhythm, the song of life itself. It is the thread that can lead you out of the maze of your thinking mind. It is the anchor that can hold you steady in the storm. And in our next step, we will learn to rest our full attention on this incredible, life-giving gift. we will learn to use the anchor of the breath. And so, we turn our attention to the breath, the anchor. Think of your mind for a moment as a small boat on a vast, dark sea. The sea is not hostile, it is simply powerful. The winds of the day, the currents of memory and worry, have pushed your little boat far from the shore of peace. You feel adrift, tossed by waves of thought that you cannot control. This is a frightening feeling. The instinct is to row frantically, to try and fight the waves, to force your way back to a calm harbor. But this only exhausts you, and the sea is infinitely more powerful than your tired arms. The practice of mindfulness is not about fighting the sea. It is about gently, quietly lowering an anchor. An anchor does not make the storm cease. The winds may still blow, and the waves may still rise and fall, but the anchor holds you fast. It connects you to the deep, silent, unmoving ground beneath the surface turmoil. It prevents you from being swept away into the abyss. Your breath is this anchor. It has been with you every second of your life, a faithful, silent companion. And tonight, we will learn to honor it, to use it, to find refuge in its simple, steady rhythm. The practice itself is the very essence of simplicity. You do not need to learn any complex theory. You only need to come home to what is already happening. Begin by finding the breath in your body. There is no single correct place. For some, the sensation is most clear at the very tip of the nostrils, a subtle coolness as the air enters, and a gentle warmth as it leaves. You might feel the faint tickle of the tiny hairs in your nose with each inhalation. For others, the sensation is more obvious in the chest, the gentle expansion of the rib cage, the lifting and falling motion. And for others still, the breath is felt most deeply in the abdomen, the soft rising of the belly as you breathe in, and its gentle deflation as you breathe out. Take a moment now. Do not force anything. Simply notice, where is the breath most alive for you? Where is its signature the clearest? Find that spot. Let that be your home base, your point of focus. Once you have found your spot, the instruction is this. As you breathe in, simply know in your mind, I am breathing in. And as you breathe out, simply know, I am breathing out. That is all. You are not trying to achieve a mystical state. You are not trying to have a profound insight. You are simply bringing a gentle, non-judgmental awareness to the raw physical sensation of breathing. Breathing in, I am aware of my body breathing in. Breathing out, I am aware of my body breathing out. You can even shorten it, a silent whisper in the mind. In, out, rising, falling, calm, ease. Let the words be soft, like feathers, merely pointing to the experience. Do not strain, do not concentrate with a furrowed brow. This is not a math problem. It is a returning, it is a resting. The quality of attention should be like that of a loving mother watching her sleeping child breathe. It is tender, patient, and infinitely kind. Now, it is a certainty that your mind will wander. This is not a sign of failure. It is simply the nature of the mind, what it is conditioned to do. You will be following the breath, and suddenly you will find yourself composing an email, reliving a conversation, or worrying about a meeting next week. You might be lost in thought for seconds or for many minutes. The most important moment in this entire practice is the moment you realize you have been swept away. In that moment of realizing, you have already woken up. You have already come back. So, what do you do then? You do not scold yourself. You do not sigh with frustration, thinking, I am no good at this. This is the old habit of self-criticism. Instead, you can actually smile inwardly, a small, gentle smile of recognition. You can say to yourself, there's the thinking mind again, as you would greet an old familiar friend. And then, without any further drama or storytelling, you gently, kindly, lovingly guide your attention right back to the physical sensation of the breath, back to the rising and falling of your belly, back to the in and out at the tip of your nose. This is the whole practice, getting lost and gently returning. 100 times you get lost, 100 times you gently return. Each return is a small victory of compassion. Each return strengthens the muscle of mindfulness. Why is this simple act so powerful? Because the breath has a secret quality. The breath only ever happens in the present moment. Think about it. You cannot breathe the breath you took an hour ago. That is now only a memory. You cannot breathe the breath you will take an hour from now. That is only a fantasy. The breath you are taking right now, this inhalation, this exhalation, is the only one that is real. It is life itself, unfolding in the here and now. Your mind, on the other hand, is a master time traveler. It loves to dwell in the past, picking at old wounds, replaying old glories, or it loves to rocket into the future, rehearsing for disasters or daydreaming of successes. This time travel is the source of almost all our anxiety and regret. By resting your attention on the breath, you are tethering your mind to the present moment. You are gently pulling it out of the phantom worlds of yesterday and tomorrow, and inviting it home to your own body, to this room, to this night, to the only moment where life is actually happening. With each return to the breath, you are affirming to your entire nervous system that right here, right now, in this moment, you are safe. There is no emergency to solve. There is only this breath, rising and falling. Imagine a tightrope walker, poised to cross a great canyon. Her balance is exquisite. Her life depends on it. Where is her attention? Is she thinking about the solid platform she just left behind? No, that would make her fall. Is she thinking about the safety of the platform she hopes to reach? No, that would make her fall. Her entire being, all her awareness, is concentrated in the feeling of the rope beneath the sole of her foot, in this single, present step. Her focus is absolute, but it is also relaxed, responsive, flowing. She is one with the present moment. For us, the breath is that rope across the canyon of a restless night. Our task is simply to feel this one breath, and then the next one. We are not trying to get to the other side. We are just being with the step we are taking right now. And notice, you do not have to make yourself breathe. Your body does it for you. It is a gift. Your only task is to receive it, to feel it, to allow it to happen. You can let go of the need to be in control. You can surrender to this deep, wise, natural rhythm of your own body. Let the breath breathe itself. You are just the privileged observer, watching the miracle of life unfold within you. Rest here for a while, in the simple, profound reality of this in-breath and this out-breath. This is your anchor. This is your home. Now that you are resting with the breath, anchored in the present moment, we can begin to notice the weather of the mind. The great teachers of the past used a wonderfully accurate and playful image for the untrained mind. They called it the monkey mind. Picture a monkey in a vast jungle, swinging wildly from one branch to another. It never stays still for more than a second. It screeches, it chatters, it sees a piece of fruit on a distant tree and immediately swings towards it, only to be distracted by a strange sound halfway there. It is restless, chaotic, and driven by impulse. This is the nature of our mind when left to its own devices. It swings from a memory of the past, to a plan for the future, to a sensation in the body, to a fragment of a song, to a worry, to a fantasy, all within the space of a few seconds. The first and most important thing to understand is that this monkey mind is not your enemy. It is not a sign that you are broken or flawed. It is simply the result of a lifetime of conditioning. We are trained to think, to analyze, to solve, to plan. We are not trained to be still. So when you lie down in the quiet of the night, the monkey begins its performance. To fight this monkey is to lose, for it has endless energy. To become angry with it is to add another noisy monkey to the jungle. The path of wisdom is not to fight it, but to do something quite radical. It is to befriend it. It is to watch its antics with a gentle, patient, and even amused eye. You do not have to climb the tree and swing with the monkey. You can learn to sit peacefully at the foot of the tree and simply observe. You give the monkey the gift of your calm, accepting presence. To help us do this, let us change the metaphor. Imagine you are sitting on the soft, grassy bank of a wide, slowly flowing river. This river is your stream of consciousness. The water itself is the flow of time, and floating on its surface are countless leaves, twigs, and flowers. Each of these items represents a single thought or feeling. Your only task is to sit on the bank and watch them drift by. There is no other goal. A green leaf floats past it is a memory from your workday. You see it, you acknowledge it, and you let it continue down the river. A tangled twig appears it is a worry about a future event. You do not need to untangle it. You do not need to fish it out of the water. You simply observe, a worried thought, and you let it float on. A beautiful, colorful flower bobs on the surface. Pleasant fantasy, a happy daydream. This too, you do not grab. You appreciate its beauty for a moment, and you let it go, watching it drift out of sight. Notice the thoughts that arise. A thought about an unpaid bill. A memory of an unkind word someone said. A question, am I doing this meditation correctly? An urge to scratch an itch. Each one is just another object in the river. You can even practice silently labeling them as they pass. Planning, remembering, worrying, judging, sensing. The label is not meant to be a deep analysis. It is a simple, non-judgmental acknowledgement. It keeps you on the riverbank and prevents you from unconsciously diving into the water. When you find that you have in fact dived in, and you will, many, many times, do not be discouraged. The moment you realize you are wet, you are already back on the bank. You have remembered. You simply dry yourself off with a smile of self-compassion. Return your attention to the anchor of your breath for a moment, and then resume your gentle watching of the river. You are not trying to stop the river. That is impossible. You are not trying to clean the river. That is not your job. You are simply learning to rest on the bank, finding your peace right beside the ceaseless flow. This practice reveals a profound distinction, the difference between thinking and being aware that you are thinking. When you are lost in a worry, when your heart is pounding because of an imaginary future scenario, you are thinking. You have merged with the thought. You have become the thought. You are in the river, being tossed and turned by its currents, believing that you are the water. But when you can witness the worry from the riverbank and say to yourself, there is the arising of a worried thought. A space has been created. In that moment, you are no longer the thought. You are the awareness that perceives the thought. You are the consciousness that is witnessing the mind's activity. This space, this gap between the observer and the thought, is the very beginning of freedom. It is in this space that you have a choice. You can choose not to believe the thought. You can choose not to pour your energy into it. You can choose to let that particular leaf float by and return your attention to the feeling of the solid ground of the present moment beneath you. This is how you reclaim your power, not by stopping the mind, but by realizing that you are infinitely larger than the mind's transient contents. Let us use one final image, perhaps the most beautiful of all. Your true nature, your deepest consciousness, is like the vast open sky. It is limitless, clear, and always at peace. It has been there since before you were born, and will be there long after. Thoughts, emotions, moods, and sensations are like clouds. They drift into the sky, and they drift out. Some are light, white, and puffy thoughts of joy, moments of peace. Some are dark, heavy, and full of rain thoughts of sadness, anger, or fear. The clouds may temporarily obscure the blue sky. A great storm may roll in, making it seem as if the entire sky is nothing but darkness and turmoil. But we know that above those clouds, the blue sky remains untouched, unstained, and utterly serene. The clouds can never harm the sky. We get into trouble when we forget that we are the sky, and we mistakenly believe that we are the cloud. We say, I am angry, instead of the more accurate, I am the vast sky of awareness, and a cloud of anger is passing through. When you rest on the riverbank, you are remembering that you are the sky. You are allowing the clouds to do what they doto float, to gather, to disperse without identifying with them. And a curious thing happens when you do this. A thought, especially a negative one, is like a fire. If you feed it with the wood of your attention, belief, and analysis, it will grow into a great blaze. But if you simply observe it, without adding any more wood, it has no fuel. It flickers for a while, and then, deprived of energy, it naturally burns itself out and disappears. You are learning to let the clouds pass, to let the leaves float by, and to rest in the vast, silent peace of your own true nature. Having rested on the riverbank, watching the ceaseless flow of thoughts, you have created a space within you, a space of quiet, clear awareness. Into this space, we can now introduce a new quality, not just through silent observation, but through healing sound. We will now explore the power of mantra. The word mantra is ancient, from the Sanskrit language. It can be broken into two parts, manas, which means mind, and tra, which means a tool, a vehicle, or protection. A mantra, therefore, is a tool for the mind. It is a form of sound protection for the mind. Protection from what? Protection from itself. Protection from the chaotic, aimless swinging of the monkey mind. When you repeat a mantra, or listen to it with focused attention, you are giving your mind a single, wholesome, and beautiful branch to hold on to. Instead of swinging wildly between branches of anxiety, regret, and fear, the mind can rest on this one branch. The endless, anxious, internal chatter is replaced by a sound that is imbued with peace, compassion, and wisdom. It is like taking a sharp, painful stone out of your hand and replacing it with a smooth, warm, perfectly shaped gem. You are not suppressing thought. You are transforming the very energy of thought into something that heals rather than harms. The mantra we will invite into our heart tonight is perhaps the most beloved and widely recited in the entire Buddhist world. It is the mantra of boundless compassion. It is Om Mani Padme Hum. This mantra is considered to be the very heartbeat of Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of compassion. There is a beautiful story that illustrates the spirit of this great being. It is said that Avalokiteshvara worked for eons to liberate countless beings from their suffering. Believing the task was complete, he looked out from his pure land, only to see that just as many beings as before were still lost in sorrow, fear, and ignorance. In a moment of profound despair for the world, his heart broke and his body shattered into 1,000 pieces. Yet, his overwhelming compassion would not let him rest. The universal Buddhas gave him their strength, and he was reformed, this time with 1,000 arms, and in the palm of each hand was an eye of wisdom. He now had the 1,000 arms to reach out and help all who suffer, and the 1,000 eyes to see with wisdom exactly what they needed. This story is not a historical account to be believed literally. It is a profound spiritual poem. It tells us that true compassion is not a passive feeling of pity. It is an active, dynamic, and unbreakable commitment to the well-being of others, born from a heart that has been broken open by the world's pain. The mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, is the sound of this 1,000-armed compassion. To recite it is to call upon that same potential for limitless love that lies dormant within our own hearts. Let us now gently unpack the meaning of this sacred sound, this jewel in the lotus. Each syllable is said to have a purifying and transformative power. It begins with Om. This is the primordial sound of the universe. It is the sound of all creation, the vibration from which everything emerges. It is not a word with a specific meaning, but a sound that connects us to the universal whole. When we sound it, or hear it, it helps to dissolve our sense of being a small, separate, isolated self. It cuts through the pride and ego that whispers, "I am the center of everything." Om reminds us that we are part of a vast, interconnected web of existence. It is the sound of coming home to the universe. Next comes Mani, which together mean the jewel. This is not a diamond or a ruby. It is the wish-fulfilling jewel of bodhicitta, the awakened heart. It represents the method on the path to peace. And what is that method? It is boundless compassion, unconditional love, and the sincere intention to be of benefit to others. It is the active desire to see all beings, including ourselves, free from suffering and its causes. The jewel, Mani, is the altruistic spirit that shines in the darkness, a constant source of warmth and light. Then we have Padme, which means in the lotus. The lotus flower is one of the most profound symbols in Eastern spirituality. It begins its life deep in the mud and slime at the bottom of a pond. It is born from darkness and decay, yet it pushes its way up through the murky water, unstained and untouched by the dirt, and opens its petals in the pure sunlight, beautiful and radiant. The lotus, Padme, represents wisdom. Specifically, it is the wisdom that understands the true nature of reality. It shows us that purity can arise from the most impure of conditions. It teaches us that enlightenment is not found by escaping our messy human lives, but by transforming the mud of our greed, anger, and ignorance right where we are. Your anxieties, your fears, your struggles, this is the mud, your innate potential for wisdom and peace. This is the lotus. Finally, the mantra concludes with hum. This syllable is powerful and grounding. It represents integration and indivisibility. It is the union of the jewel and the lotus. It signifies that method and wisdom, compassion and understanding can never be separated. Compassion without wisdom can be foolish and misdirected. Wisdom without compassion can be cold, sterile, and distant. Hum is the marriage of the heart and the mind. It is the moment when the jewel of compassion rests perfectly within the open petals of the lotus of wisdom. It is the declaration of our potential to achieve this unified, awakened state. So, when we recite Om Mani Padme Hum, we are making a profound prayer that resonates through our entire being. We are saying, by the power of this practice, may I unite the compassion in my heart with the wisdom in my mind, and transform the mud of my ordinary existence into the pure lotus of enlightenment for the benefit of all. You do not need to strive or strain. You do not need to force a feeling. For now, simply allow these sounds to be your companion in the night. You can listen as they are chanted, letting the gentle vibration wash through you. Imagine each syllable as a wave of light, entering your body and soothing your nervous system. Or, if you feel comfortable, you can begin to repeat the mantra silently to yourself, like a gentle inner lullaby. You can time it with your breath, breathing in a silent Om Mani Padme Hum, breathing out a silent Om Mani Padme Hum. When you notice the monkey mind beginning to chatter, gently and kindly guide it back to this sound. Let this mantra be the focus of your heart. First, offer this gift of compassion to yourself. Let the sound permeate every cell, every old wound, every fearful thought. Let the jewel rest in the lotus of your own heart. Then, allow that feeling to radiate outwards, like ripples on a quiet pond. Send this healing sound to your loved ones, to your friends, to your neighbors, and even to those with whom you have difficulty. Extend it to all people, all animals, all beings in all corners of the universe who might be lying awake in the dark, just like you. Let your heart be a silent source of peace for the world. By cultivating this seed of compassion for yourself, you create the soft, fertile ground needed to look more deeply into the nature of your own restlessness. With a heart that has been softened by the sound of compassion, we now have the courage and the stability to look deeply and honestly at our own experience. The Buddha is often compared to a great physician, a doctor for the human spirit. His first and most famous teaching, the Four Noble Truths, is not a religious dogma to be believed, but a medical framework for healing. It follows the same logical steps any good doctor would take. First, identify the illness. Second, diagnose its cause. Third, confirm that a cure is possible. And fourth, prescribe the treatment. Tonight, with gentle curiosity, we will look at the first step, the diagnosis. This is the first noble truth, the truth of dukkha. The word dukkha, from the ancient Pali language, is often translated into English as suffering. This translation, while not entirely wrong, is incomplete and can be misleading. It can make the teaching sound pessimistic or negative, as if it is saying that life is nothing but pain and misery. This is not the case. While dukkha certainly includes the obvious pains of life sickness, loss, grief, old age's meaning is far more subtle and pervasive. Perhaps a better word is unsatisfactoriness or unease. Imagine a beautiful, finely crafted wooden cart. Everything about it is perfect except for one small flaw. The axle hole on one of the wheels was drilled just a fraction of an inch off center. Now, when the cart rolls along a smooth path, it isn't a disaster. It doesn't break down. But with every single turn of the wheel, there is a slight bump, a subtle vibration, a recurring friction. The ride is never perfectly smooth. This constant, low-grade bumpiness, this pervasive feeling that things are not quite right, is dukkha. It is the background hum of stress and anxiety, that so often keeps us awake in the dead of night. To understand it better, we can think of dukkha as having three distinct flavors. The first is the one we all know, the dukkha of overt pain. This is the pain of a headache, the sting of a cruel word, the sorrow of losing a loved one. It is the first arrow, the raw, unavoidable pain that is a part of being a sensitive, living creature in the world. It is the obvious suffering that no one can escape. The second flavor is more subtle. It is the dukkha of change. This is the unease that comes from the fact that even pleasant things do not last. You have a wonderful vacation, but a subtle sadness creeps in on the last day because you know it has to end. You are in a moment of pure joy with someone you love, but a tiny part of your mind whispers, "I hope this never changes," which is itself a recognition that it will. This form of dukkha arises from our clinging to happiness, our desire to freeze frame a pleasant moment in a universe that is defined by constant flow and change. The more we try to grasp onto pleasure, the more we suffer when it inevitably slips through our fingers. It is the stress of holding on in a world that is always letting go. The third flavor is the most profound and often the most hidden. It is the dukkha of conditioned existence. This is the baseline unsatisfactoriness of just being a self. It is the off-center wheel. It is the general, background anxiety that comes from being a vulnerable, mortal being in a complex, unpredictable world. It's the feeling of never being truly, deeply settled. It's the vague restlessness that might cause you to endlessly scroll through your phone, or look for a snack, or start an argument, all to avoid a quiet moment with your own being. This is the dukkha that surfaces in the silence of the night, when all the daytime distractions are gone. Even if your life is good, your health is fine, and your relationships are strong, this background hum of unease can still be present. It is the fundamental friction of existence. To speak of these things, to name them clearly, is not to be morbid or negative. It is an act of supreme realism and courage. Imagine you have had a small stone in your shoe for years. You've gotten so used to the discomfort that you barely notice it consciously, but you are always slightly irritable. You can never walk with a free and easy stride, and you feel a constant, low-level exhaustion. To finally sit down, take off your shoe, and say, "Ah, there is a stone in here. That is why I have been uncomfortable." This is not pessimism. This is a moment of liberating clarity. It is the first essential step to removing the stone and finally walking in comfort. The first noble truth is simply this moment of acknowledgement. It is taking off the shoe. It is looking honestly at our experience and admitting, there is an unease here. There is a bumpiness to the ride. In our culture, we are often encouraged to deny this, to practice a kind of forced positivity, to pretend the stone isn't there. But this denial is exhausting. It is a battle against reality itself. The Buddha's path begins with the immense relief of surrender, of no longer having to pretend that everything is perfect. This leads to a powerful parable, the story of the two arrows. A person is walking through the forest when they are suddenly struck by an arrow. This causes immediate, sharp pain. This is the first arrow. In life, these first arrows are unavoidable. We will all, at times, experience sickness, disappointment, loss, and the pain of being misunderstood. These things are part of the human condition, as random and impersonal as an arrow flying through a forest. But what happens next is crucial. The person struck by the first arrow immediately reacts with a storm of thought. Why me? This is a catastrophe. I can't believe this happened. It's not fair. The pain is unbearable. I will never recover from this. This torrent of mental reactivity, the anger, the fear, the self-pity, the catastrophizing, like picking up a second arrow and deliberately shooting yourself with it in the exact same spot as the first. The Buddha taught that while we cannot always control the first arrow, the second arrow is entirely optional. The raw pain of life is one thing. The suffering we add on top of it through our mental and emotional reactions is another. Our suffering is not the pain. It is our resistance to the pain. Our suffering is the second arrow. When we lie awake at night, our mind is often a factory for second arrows. A small worry appears the first arrow. We then shoot ourselves with 100 more arrows of what-if scenarios. A memory of an embarrassing moment arises the first arrow. We then shoot ourselves with arrows of shame, regret, and self-criticism. The first noble truth is the invitation to see this process clearly. It is the wisdom to recognize the difference between the unavoidable pain of the first arrow and the self-created suffering of the second. By embracing the truth of dukkha, we are not resigning ourselves to a life of misery. We are beginning the intelligent and compassionate work of learning how to feel the sting of the first arrow without firing the second. We are learning to hold our pain with a gentle, spacious awareness, rather than with a tight fist of resistance. And the first step in learning not to fire the second arrow is to understand exactly what it is made of, to investigate the cause of our own reactivity. Having bravely acknowledged the reality of dukkha, the subtle, pervasive unease in our lives, we can now take the next logical step on this path of healing. A wise physician, after identifying a symptom, does not stop there. They seek its root cause. To simply treat the symptoms without understanding the origin of the illness is a temporary fix at best. The second noble truth is the Buddha's profound diagnosis of the root cause of our restlessness. It points a finger directly at a single, powerful force within the human mind. This cause is called tanha. The word is often translated as craving or desire, but its essence is more like a deep, persistent thirst. It is the insatiable thirst of the mind for something other than what is present in this moment. It is the engine of our dissatisfaction, the fuel for the second arrow. This thirst is not a moral failing. It is a deeply ingrained survival mechanism, a fundamental habit of an untrained mind. It operates constantly, often just below the surface of our awareness, pulling and pushing us, promising a final satisfaction that it can never, ever deliver. This primal thirst manifests in three distinct flavors. The first and most obvious is the thirst for sense pleasures. This is the craving for things that delight our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. In our modern world, this is the very air we breathe. It is the engine of our entire consumer culture. It is the whisper that says, if only I had that new phone, that faster car, that bigger house, then I would be happy. It is the pull of the next delicious meal, the next captivating television series, the next beautiful object to possess. It is the relentless pursuit of the next pleasant experience. There is nothing inherently wrong with enjoying the pleasures of the senses. The problem, the root of dukkha, lies in our belief that these things can provide a lasting, stable happiness. Imagine a man adrift on a raft, in the middle of a vast ocean, dying of thirst. In his delirium, he looks over the side and sees an endless supply of water. He cups his hands, scoops up the cool, clear water, and drinks it greedily. For a fleeting moment, the coolness soothes his dry throat, but this is salt water. Within minutes, the salt draws even more moisture from his body, and his thirst returns with a burning, agonizing intensity he has never known before. Believing the only solution is to drink more, he drinks again, and the cycle of fleeting relief and intensified agony repeats, pulling him deeper into a nightmare of unquenchable thirst. This is a perfect parable for the pursuit of sense pleasures as an ultimate solution. Each pleasure provides a momentary coolness, a brief distraction, but because it is impermanent and cannot touch the deep, underlying thirst of the heart, its passing leaves us feeling even more empty and thirsty than before. We chase the next hit, the next purchase, the next experience, believing it will be the one to finally satisfy us, all the while becoming more and more dehydrated in spirit. The second flavor of thirst is deeper and more personal. It is the thirst for existence, the craving to be or to become. This is the relentless drive to build, maintain, and defend a solid, impressive, and permanent identity. It is the craving to be seen as successful, intelligent, attractive, or righteous. In our age of social media, this thirst has become a global obsession. We curate our lives, posting our highlight reels, desperate for the validation of likes and comments. We cling to our job titles, our accomplishments, our roles as parents or partners, believing this is who I am. This thirst to be somebody is the source of our deepest anxieties. It fuels the fear of failure, the terror of public speaking, the sting of criticism, and the agony of embarrassment. When we lie awake at night, our mind often spins with this craving. We replay conversations, wondering if we said the right thing to protect our image. We worry about our career, our reputation, our legacy. We are desperately thirsty for a solid, stable, and admirable me to exist in a world where everything is constantly changing. We are trying to build a fortress of identity on the shifting sands of time, and the constant effort required to maintain this illusion is profoundly exhausting. The third flavor of thirst is the shadow of the second. It is the thirst for non-existence. This is the craving to not be. It is the powerful urge to get rid of something unpleasant. This is the energy of aversion, hatred, anger, and denial. When a painful feeling arises, like anxiety or sadness, this thirst immediately says, "I hate this. I can't stand it. Make it go away." This craving for annihilation drives us to escape our own present moment reality. It is why we reach for alcohol, lose ourselves in mindless entertainment, or work ourselves to the point of collapse. We are trying to annihilate an uncomfortable feeling, to escape a difficult truth, to numb the pain of the first arrow. This thirst is just as violent a form of grasping as the others. We are clinging desperately to the idea of absence. We are at war with our own experience. This resistance, this pushing away, creates immense internal pressure and tension. In fact, this craving for non-existence is the very mechanism of the second arrow. We feel an unpleasant sensation, the first arrow. Our thirst to annihilate that sensation causes us to tense up, to generate stories, to fight reality. In doing so, we fire the second arrow of mental anguish directly into our own heart. So, the restlessness that keeps you tossing and turning is powered by this three-pronged thirst. The thirst for a pleasant feeling to arise, the thirst for your sense of self to be secure, and the thirst for an unpleasant feeling to go away. It is a constant, agitated state of reaching for what is not here and pushing away what is. But it is crucial to understand this final, vital point. The Buddha's diagnosis was not that pleasure is bad, or that having a self is wrong, or that wanting pain to cease is a character flaw. The objects of our thirst are not the problem. The beautiful sunset, the loving relationship, the successful career, these are not the cause of dukkha. The root cause is the quality of thirst itself. It is the clinging, the grasping, the sticky, desperate attachment of the mind. It is the mistaken belief that anything external or any particular internal state can provide the permanent, unconditional peace that we seek. It is the friction of a mind constantly at war with the present moment. And so, the question naturally arises, why do we cling so hard to things that are destined to change? To understand that, we must look directly at the fundamental nature of the world itself. We must investigate the great truth of impermanence. Having seen that our restlessness is born from a deep thirst, a desperate clinging we call tanha, we must now ask the next question: why do we cling so hard? We cling because we are under a profound illusion. We believe that the things we cling to are possessions, our relationships, our youth, our very identity can be made permanent. We act as if we can build a fortress of stability in a world that is, by its very nature, a flowing, ever-changing river. This brings us to the next great truth, a cornerstone of wisdom that is essential for our healing. It is the truth of impermanence, or anicca. Anicca is the universal, unbreakable law that states that nothing is static. Everything that comes into being will, in time, pass away. Everything is in a constant state of flux. Look at the world around you. The great mountains seem so solid, so eternal, yet they are slowly being worn down by wind and rain. The stars in the night sky seem fixed and forever, yet they are burning through their fuel, destined to collapse and die over unimaginable spans of time. The river you see today is not the same river you saw yesterday. Its water has moved on, its banks have shifted. This law applies not just to the grand, cosmic scale, but to the most intimate parts of our lives. Your own body is a testament to anicca. It is not a solid entity, but a dynamic process. Millions of your cells are dying and being replaced at this very moment. The person you were 10 years ago is, in a very real, physical sense, no longer here. You are not a static noun. You are a flowing verb. You are not a thing. You are a process. Our suffering, our dukkha, arises directly from the clash between our thirst for permanence and the absolute reality of impermanence. It is the friction generated when our desires rub up against the unchangeable law of the universe. We want our health and youth to last forever, but our body follows the law of anicca, and it ages and weakens. Our desperate clinging to a past version of ourselves creates suffering. We want our moments of perfect happiness to be frozen in time, but moods, emotions, and situations are like the weather, they constantly shift and change. Our demand that the sun always be shining creates suffering when the clouds inevitably roll in. We want the people we love to be with us forever, unchanged, but they too are rivers of change, and all life is fragile. Our inability to accept the reality of loss and separation creates immense suffering. Our mind is a factory that produces demands for permanence, while the universe is a river that only knows how to flow. We are constantly trying to build a dam in the middle of this river, and the pressure that builds up behind that dam is our anxiety, our stress, and our grief. The problem is not the river. The problem is our insistence on building the dam. There is a story that illustrates this truth with heartbreaking beauty. A young woman named Kisa Gotami lived in the time of the Buddha. She had one son whom she adored more than anything in the world. But one day, the child fell ill and died. Kisa Gotami was so consumed by grief she could not accept his death. She believed he was merely sick. She picked up his small, lifeless body and went from house to house in her village, begging everyone for medicine that could cure him. Some people mocked her, thinking she had lost her mind. Others looked at her with pity, seeing her terrible pain. Finally, a wise old man, seeing her desperation, directed her to the one person who might be able to help. He told her to go and see the Buddha. Clutching her son's body, she ran to where the Buddha was teaching. She fell at his feet and pleaded, "Teacher, can you give me the medicine that will cure my boy?" The Buddha looked at her with eyes full of compassion, and instead of telling her the hard truth, he said, "Yes, I can help you. But to make the medicine, I require a special ingredient. I need you to bring me a single mustard seed from a house in the village where no Wanano parent, no child, no spouse, no Savanthus ever died." A flicker of hope ignited in Kisa Gotami's heart. A mustard seed was such a simple thing. She thanked the Buddha and immediately set off. She went to the first house she saw and knocked on the door. "The Buddha has sent me," she explained. "I need a mustard seed to make a medicine for my son. Can you spare one?" "Of course," the woman at the door said. "We have plenty." As the woman turned to get it, Kisa Gotami asked the crucial question, "Has anyone in this house ever died?" The woman's face fell. "Oh, my friend," she said sadly, "do not remind me of my deepest sorrow. My husband died just last year." With a heavy heart, Kisa Gotami went to the next house, and the next, and the next. The story was the same at every door. Everyone was willing to give her the seed, but every single family had been touched by death. One had lost a daughter, another a father, another an aunt. They told her, "The living are few, but the dead are many." As the sun began to set, and she sat by the roadside, weary and empty-handed, the profound truth began to dawn on her. Her private, unbearable grief was not private at all. It was the universal condition of all life. There was not a single home untouched by the law of impermanence. In that moment, her frantic, grasping grief began to soften, replaced by a deep, sober, and spacious understanding. She was no longer alone in her pain. She was connected to all of humanity by this shared truth. She tenderly laid her son's body down and returned to the Buddha, not with a mustard seed, but with the seed of wisdom planted in her own heart. This wisdom is available to you right now as you lie in the quiet of the night. Consider the anxiety you may be feeling. It feels so solid, so real, so permanent, so much a part of me. But reflect on the law of anicca. Have you felt this way before? Yes. Did that feeling last forever? Number. It arose, it stayed for a while, and it passed away. The anxiety you feel now, this very specific cloud of worry, is also impermanent. It is a temporary weather pattern in the vast sky of your awareness. To know this, truly know this in your bones, is to begin to loosen your grip on it. You don't have to fight it or force it to go away. You can allow it to be there. knowing that it, like everything else, will pass. This understanding allows you to hold your experiences, both pleasant and unpleasant, with a lighter touch. You can savor a moment of joy without the fearful clinging that poisons it. And you can endure a moment of sorrow without the panicked resistance that turns it into overwhelming suffering. This is the liberation of anicca. It is not a call to be passive or uncaring. It is a call to be wise. It is the wisdom of learning to gracefully dance with the flow of reality, rather than being drowned by fighting against its current. This is the beginning of true rest. And as we see that everything is constantly changing, a deeper question arises. If my body, my feelings, and my thoughts are all impermanent, then what is this I that I am so desperately trying to protect? Having seen that our thirst for permanence clashes with the universal law of impermanence, we are led to the deepest and most transformative inquiry of all. We have talked about protecting the self, about the ego's fears, about what things mean for me, but now we must ask the fundamental question that lies at the heart of our spiritual journey. What is this self that we are so desperately trying to protect? Who is the I at the center of this storm of anxiety and desire? We assume, without question, that there is a solid, continuous, independent entity living somewhere behind our eyes and between our ears. The hero of our story, the protagonist in our personal drama. We spend our entire lives polishing, defending, and worrying about this main character. The teaching of anatta, often translated as no self or not self, invites us to do something very simple but radical. It asks us to stop assuming and to start looking. With gentle, honest curiosity, let us go in search of this self. If it truly exists as a separate, unchanging thing, we should be able to find it. Let us begin our search in the most obvious place, the body. Is your body yourself? It certainly seems that way, but let's look closer. This body is in a state of constant change, as we saw with the law of impermanence. It is not the same body it was a year ago, or even a minute ago. Furthermore, this body is composed entirely of not-body elements. It is made of the food you ate, the water you drank, the air you are breathing right now. It is composed of sunlight, minerals from the earth, and the DNA of countless ancestors. If you were to give all these elements back to their sources, there would be no body left. So the body is not a solid, independent thing, but a temporary gathering, a process, a wave in the great ocean of matter. It is something you have, but it is not what you fundamentally are. So, if not the body, perhaps the self is our mind. Let's investigate the mind. Buddhist psychology breaks the mind down into a few key components, or aggregates. First, there are our feelings and sensations. Are you your feelings? One moment you feel happy, the next moment sad, the next moment neutral. Feelings are like the weather, constantly changing based on internal and external conditions. If you were your feelings, your self would be born and die hundreds of times a day. You would have no continuity. Feelings are clearly something you experience, but they cannot be the stable self you are looking for. What about your perceptions? The part of your mind that labels and recognizes things, tree, car, pleasant, unpleasant. Are these perceptions yourself? Perceptions are learned. You learn the word tree and the concept behind it. Your perceptions are conditioned by your culture, your upbringing, your language. They are not a core, essential you. They are more like a software program running in the mind. Perhaps then, the self lies in our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, our intentions. This is a very common place to locate our identity. I am a person who believes this. I think that. But look at the nature of thought. Thoughts arise in the mind, uninvited, and they pass away. If you were your thoughts, who is the one that is aware of the thoughts? You can observe your own thinking process, which implies that you are not the thoughts themselves, but the awareness in which the thoughts appear. Beliefs and opinions can change dramatically over a lifetime. An intention arises to do something, and then it is gone. These mental formations are also just passing traffic, impermanent and unreliable. They cannot be a solid, unchanging self. Finally, we come to the most subtle candidate, consciousness itself. Surely, this awareness, this knowing, this is me, but let's look closely at consciousness. It also does not exist independently. There is seeing, which is a form of consciousness, but it depends on having an eye and an object to be seen. There is hearing, but it depends on an ear and a sound. There is thinking, but it depends on a mind and a thought. There is no disembodied, free-floating consciousness that exists on its own. It always arises in relationship to something else. Like the other aggregates, it is dependent, conditioned, and impermanent. So, we have searched through our entire experiencer body, our feelings, our perceptions, our thoughts, and our consciousness, and we cannot find a separate, solid, unchanging I. This is the startling and liberating discovery of anatta. The self we have been so worried about does not exist as a concrete entity. It is more like a convenient label, a story we tell ourselves, a process that we mistake for a person. This can sound frightening. If I am not a self, am I nothing? The wisdom of the great master, Thich Nhat Hanh, shines a beautiful light here with the concept of interbeing. He invites us to look deeply at a simple sheet of paper. If we look with mindful eyes, he says, we can see a cloud floating in the paper. This is not poetry, it is a reality. Without the cloud, there is no rain. Without rain, the trees cannot grow. Without trees, we cannot make paper. So the cloud is a vital part of the paper. If we look further, we can see the sunshine that was needed for the tree's photosynthesis. We can see the logger who cut the tree and the wheat that made the bread he ate for breakfast. We can see the earth that nourished the tree's roots. If we were to take any one of these elements out, if we gave the cloud back to the sky, the sunshine back to the sun, the logger back to his parents, the sheet of paper could not exist. The paper, therefore, is empty of a separate, independent self. But it is full of the entire universe. We are exactly like that sheet of paper. When we look deeply into ourselves, we see that we too are empty of a separate self. Inside us is the sun, the air, the earth. Inside us are our parents and all our ancestors. Inside us are the farmers who grew our food, the teachers who taught us, and every being we have ever interacted with. We inter are with everything else in the cosmos. To be is to inter be. This is not a loss, but a glorious liberation. The belief in a small, separate self is a terrible burden. It is the root of all our selfishness, our greed, and our pride. It is the source of our deepest loneliness, the feeling of being an isolated fragment in a hostile universe. It is the source of our fear of death, the terror that this small I will be extinguished. To realize anatta is to put down this heavy bag. The need to constantly defend and promote the ego can finally relax. The fear of personal harm lessens because you see that you are part of a flow that is much larger than your small story. Loneliness dissolves in the visceral feeling of being connected to all of life. This is the ultimate peace. It is the discovery that you are not a tiny, fragile wave, but the entire, vast, and eternal ocean. And knowing this, we can now ask, is it truly possible to live in this state of peace, to experience the cessation of all this striving and fear? The answer is a resounding yes, and it is the promise we will explore next. We have walked a path together into the heart of our own restlessness. We have looked with courage at the pervasive unease of life, the truth of dukkha. We have unflinchingly diagnosed its root cause as the insatiable, clinging thirst of the mind, the truth of tanha. We have seen how this thirst is fueled by our deep-seated misunderstanding of the world, our demand for permanence and a solid self in a universe that is defined by impermanence and selfless interbeing. It is possible, after such a deep and honest diagnosis, to feel a sense of weight, perhaps even a shadow of despair. To see the mechanics of our own suffering so clearly can be a heavy burden. If this is the human condition, are we then sentenced to a life of quiet desperation, of endlessly managing an incurable ailment? It is here, at this crucial juncture, that the entire teaching pivots. It is here that the great physician, having laid out the difficult truth of the illness, leans in with a gentle smile and offers the most powerful medicine in the universe, the medicine of hope. This is the third noble truth, the truth of Nirodha, and it is the single most optimistic statement ever made about the human condition. It states, simply and profoundly, that the cessation of suffering is possible. There is a cure. Imagine you have been living for years with a mysterious illness. It drains your energy, fills your nights with anxiety, and clouds your days with a vague sense of dread. You have visited countless specialists who have offered temporary palliatives, but no one has been able to tell you what is truly wrong. Your hope begins to fade. You start to believe that this state of semi-living is simply your fate. Then you hear of a truly great physician, and, gathering your remaining strength, you go to see her. She listens to you with profound attention. She examines your condition with meticulous care, and for the first time, you feel truly seen. Then, she gives you the diagnosis. She explains the nature of the illness and its precise cause, a cause that resonates deep within you as the truth. For a moment, hearing the name of the condition, you feel a chill of fear. But then, the physician looks at you with eyes full of warmth and confidence, and she says the words you have been longing to hear. I have good news. Now that we know exactly what this is, I can tell you with absolute certainty that it is curable. There is a clear and effective path to complete recovery. Can you feel, in your body, the immense wave of relief that would wash over you? The sudden return of energy, the lifting of a great weight from your soul. The despair would vanish, replaced by a surge of motivation. The path ahead might be challenging, but for the first time, you know it leads somewhere. You know it leads to healing. This feeling, this expansive, life-affirming flood of hope is the emotional essence of the third noble truth. The Buddha is that great physician. He is telling us, yes, the condition of dukkha is real. Yes, its cause is tanha. But I have seen, and you can see for yourself, that when the cause is removed, the condition ceases. There is an end to the fever of restlessness. There is a state of perfect, unshakable peace, and it is attainable in this very life. This state of cessation is called nirodha. It is the end of dukkha, and the experience of that cessation is known as nirvana or nibbana. This is another word that is widely misunderstood. We often imagine nirvana as a kind of celestial paradise, a beautiful place we go to after we die. But this is not its true meaning. The literal meaning of the word nibbana is to extinguish or to blow out, like blowing out a candle flame. What is it that is being extinguished? Not the soul, not life itself. What is extinguished are the three fires that fuel all our suffering. The fire of greed and grasping desire, the fire of hatred and aversion, and the fire of ignorance and delusion. When these fires are put out, what remains is not a void of nothingness. What remains is the true nature of the mind itself, luminous, clear, and profoundly peaceful. Nirvana is not a place you go to. It is a state of being you uncover. It is available to you, right here, right now, beneath the turmoil of your thinking mind. It is the deep, cool stillness of a well after the buckets have stopped churning the water. It is the profound silence of a room after a loud, irritating engine has finally been switched off. For years you were so accustomed to the noise that you didn't even realize it was there, but when it stops, the peace is palpable. It is the boundless clarity of the sky, which was always present, but has now been revealed as the storm clouds of craving and aversion disperse. To experience this is to feel unburdened. It is the feeling of finally putting down a tremendously heavy bag that you have been carrying on your shoulders for your entire life. A bag filled with the weight of your fears, your ambitions, your resentments, and your self-image. The relief is immeasurable. This peace is not a fragile, temporary happiness that depends on getting what you want. It is an unconditional peace, unshakable, because it is not dependent on the ever-changing conditions of the world. It is a refuge you can take within yourself, no matter what storms are raging on the outside. Without this promise, the first two truths would be a recipe for despair. If we were only told that life is suffering and its cause is craving, the only logical conclusion would be a kind of hopeless cynicism. But the third noble truth changes everything. It infuses the entire spiritual path with radiant hope. It provides the motivation, the energy, the why behind our practice. We are no longer just managing a chronic condition. We are walking a proven path towards a definitive cure. Every time you choose to watch your breath, instead of getting lost in thought, you are taking a step towards that peace. Every time you meet a difficult emotion with compassion instead of aversion, you are taking a step. Every time you see the impermanent nature of a desire and loosen your grip on it, you are taking a step. This is not a journey into darkness. It is a journey towards the light that is already shining at your core. This hope is not a blind fantasy. It is a rational confidence based on a clear diagnosis. If we know that a fever is caused by an infection, we can be confident that curing the infection will end the fever. Likewise, because we know that dukkha is caused by tanha, we can be confident that the cessation of tanha will lead to the cessation of dukkha. It is a logical and beautiful promise. And so, we are left with the final, most practical question of all. We have been told that our condition is curable. We have been told what the state of perfect health looks like. Now, like the hopeful patient looking at the wise physician, we ask the question upon which everything depends. What is the medicine? What is the treatment plan? What is the path I must walk to arrive at this peace? This question is the gateway to the last of the Four Noble Truths, the path of liberation itself. We have arrived at the final, most hopeful part of our diagnostic journey. We have seen the reality of our inner restlessness. We have uncovered its root in the clinging thirst of the mind. And we have been given the beautiful and liberating promise that there is an end to this restlessness, a state of profound peace that is our birthright. And so we arrive at the great, practical question: what is the medicine? What is the path we must walk to find this peace? The answer lies in the fourth noble truth, the truth of the path, known in Pali as Magga. This is the Buddha's prescription for the human condition. It is not a set of rigid commandments handed down from on high, but a practical, elegant, and holistic design for living a life of wisdom and compassion. This path is called the Noble Eightfold Path. It is crucial to understand that these are not 8 sequential steps, like rungs on a ladder that you climb one after the other. It is far more organic than that. Imagine them as 8 threads, each a different color and texture, that are woven together to create a single, strong, and beautiful piece of fabric. Each thread supports and enriches all the others. Together, they create a life of balance, clarity, and freedom. Before we explore these 8 threads, we must first understand the spirit in which the journey is to be undertaken. It is the spirit of the middle way. There is a story of a monk named Sona, who before joining the monastery had been a masterful musician, a player of the lute. He was so zealous in his new spiritual practice that he pushed himself to painful extremes, meditating with such intensity that he became exhausted and discouraged. He even thought of giving up and returning to his old life. The Buddha, perceiving his state of mind, went to him and asked, "Sona, I have heard you were a skilled lute player. Tell me, what happens if you tighten the strings of your lute too much?" Sona replied, "Venerable sir, if the strings are too tight, they will snap." The Buddha then asked, "And what happens if you leave the strings too loose?" "Sir," Sona answered, "if they are too loose, they will not make any sound at all." Finally, the Buddha asked, "And when, Sona, does the lute produce a beautiful and harmonious sound?" Sona said, "It is when the strings are tuned just right, not too tight and not too loose." The Buddha smiled. "So it is," he said, "with the spiritual path. If your effort is too strained and tense, it leads to anxiety and burnout. If your effort is too slack and lazy, the mind grows dull. The path to peace is found in the middle, in a wise and sustainable balance. This beautiful teaching is the keynote for the entire Eightfold Path. It is a path of balance, not extremism. It is a path of gentle persistence, not violent struggle. The 8 threads of the path are traditionally grouped into 3 fundamental trainings. The first is the training in wisdom. This provides the map and the compass for our journey. It consists of, first, right view, sometimes called right understanding. This is the foundation of the entire path. It means seeing the world and ourselves clearly, just as things are. It is the intellectual and intuitive grasp of the truths we have been exploring. The reality of dukkha, its cause in tanha, its possible cessation in nirodha, and the nature of impermanence and the selfless, interconnected nature of life. Without right view, we are simply wandering in the dark. With right view, we have a clear and accurate map that shows us the landscape and points us in the direction of freedom. Second, right intention or right resolve. If right view is the map, right intention is the decision to actually use it and begin the journey. It is the conscious choice to align our heart's deepest motivations with wisdom. This involves cultivating 3 intentions. The intention to let go, to gently release our clinging to things and ideas. The intention of loving, kindness, the sincere wish for the happiness and well-being of all beings, including ourselves. And the intention of harmlessness, the compassionate resolve to not cause harm to any living creature. This is the why that fuels our practice. The second training is in ethical conduct. This is about how we manifest our inner wisdom in our actions in the world. It includes, third, right speech. This is the practice of using our words to create peace and understanding. It means abstaining from lying, from divisive speech that sets people against each other, from harsh or abusive language, and from idle chatter that distracts and wastes energy. In our modern world, this extends to our emails, our text messages, and our conduct on social media. It is the gentle art of speaking truthfully, kindly, and only when it is helpful. Fourth, right action. This involves aligning our physical actions with our intention of harmlessness. Traditionally, this means refraining from killing, from stealing, and from engaging in sexual misconduct that harms others. On a broader level, it is about moving through the world with integrity and respect for all life, recognizing that our actions have consequences, and choosing to make our physical presence a source of safety and trust for others. Fifth, right livelihood. This is the practice of earning a living in a way that is honorable and does not cause harm. It means avoiding professions that are based on deception, exploitation, or the trade in weapons, intoxicants, or living beings. It is a call to find a way to contribute our talents to the world that aligns with our deepest values, so that our work life is not separate from our spiritual life, but is a full expression of it. The third and final training is in mental discipline. This is the practical work of training the heart and mind. It consists of, sixth, right effort. This is the balanced energy of the lute string. It is the gentle, joyful, and persistent effort required to walk the path. It is the fourfold practice of preventing unwholesome, negative states of mind from arising, letting go of them if they have arisen, actively cultivating wholesome, positive states of mind like kindness and generosity, and maintaining those positive states once they have arisen. Seventh, right mindfulness. This is the heart of meditation practice. It is the capacity to pay attention in the present moment without judgment. It is the practice of being aware of your body, your feelings, your thoughts, and your environment as they are happening. Right mindfulness is the quality of wakefulness that illuminates the path, allowing you to see clearly so you can apply right effort and live out your right intention. Eighth, and finally, right concentration. As mindfulness becomes more stable and effort becomes more balanced, the mind naturally grows calm and focused. It gains the ability to rest on a single object of meditation without being distracted. This leads to deep states of tranquility and clarity, where the fires of desire and aversion are temporarily stilled, and profound insights into the nature of reality can arise. This is the fruit of the entire path working in harmony. These 8 threads, woven together, create a complete and beautiful guide to a life of freedom. Wisdom guides our ethical action in the world, and our clean conscience from living ethically creates the perfect foundation for the deep and transformative work of training the mind. It is not a rigid list of rules, but a gentle, compassionate, and intelligent map, showing us the way out of the forest of our own confusion and into the clear, open space of our own awakened heart. Having laid out the beautiful and holistic map of the eightfold path, we now begin the gentle work of walking it. We do not need to take on all 8 aspects at once. We begin where we are, with a single, heartfelt practice. We start by cultivating the quality that underlies right intention and fuels right effort. We begin by learning to warm and soften the heart. This practice is called metta, which translates as loving kindness. Metta is not the sentimental, possessive love of romance. nor is it a passive feeling of vague affection. It is an active, unconditional, and boundless benevolence. It is the sincere, powerful, and heartfelt wish for the genuine happiness and well-being of all living beings, starting with yourself. Think of the mind as a garden. If left untended, the weeds of fear, judgment, resentment, and anxiety will naturally grow. The practice of metta is the conscious act of planting flowers. It is the intentional cultivation of warmth, friendliness, and acceptance. Over time, as these beautiful flowers grow stronger and more vibrant, there is simply less room for the weeds. Metta changes the entire atmosphere of your inner world, transforming it from a place of harsh, critical judgment into a sanctuary of warmth and safety. It is the ultimate antidote to the cold grip of fear and the isolating poison of anger. The power of metta is not a gentle weakness. It is a formidable strength. There is a story from the life of the Buddha that illustrates this perfectly. The Buddha had a cousin named Devadatta who was consumed with jealousy and wished to usurp his position. In one of his attempts to harm the Buddha, Devadatta arranged for a notoriously fierce and powerful elephant named Nalagiri to be intoxicated with alcohol and then released onto the narrow street where the Buddha was walking. As the enraged elephant charged, trumpeting furiously, people screamed and fled in terror. The Buddha's loyal attendant, Ananda, in a moment of panic, tried to shield him with his own body. But the Buddha calmly asked him to step aside. He stood perfectly still, his posture relaxed, his face serene, and looked directly at the charging beast. He did not raise a weapon or shout a command. He simply opened his heart and radiated an immense, powerful, and unwavering wave of pure loving kindness toward the enraged animal. The elephant, which had been in a state of violent, drunken fury, felt this incredible energy of pure benevolence washing over it. It was a feeling it had never known. Its charge slowed to a trot, then to a walk. The rage in its eyes dissolved, replaced by a look of calm. It approached the Buddha, lowered its great head, and knelt before him, as if in reverence. This story teaches us that metta is a force. It has the power to tame the raging elephants in the world, and more importantly, it has the power to tame the raging elephants within our own hearts. The elephants of our uncontrollable anger, our paralyzing fear, and our relentless self-criticism. This practice is something you can do right now. It is a meditation of the heart. Let yourself be comfortable and gently close your eyes if you wish. The practice unfolds in stages, like the opening of a flower. The first and most important stage is to offer this loving kindness to yourself. This can often be the most difficult step, as we are so conditioned to criticize ourselves, but it is essential. You cannot pour water for others from an empty vessel. The healing must begin at home, in your own heart. So, bring your awareness to the area of your chest, your heart center, and silently, gently, begin to repeat these phrases, letting them resonate within you. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I live with ease. Don't worry if you don't feel a great wave of emotion. Don't worry if a critical voice appears, saying you don't deserve this. That is just another cloud passing by. Your only job is to gently, patiently, and kindly offer these phrases to yourself, as you would to a beloved child. May I be safe from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy in body and in mind. May I be truly happy and content. May my life be filled with ease and well-being. Repeat them slowly, letting the intention behind the words be the focus. Now, bring to mind a person for whom you feel great love and respect. A dear friend, a beloved family member, a mentor who has helped you. Picture them clearly in your mind's eye, see them smiling, and now, extend the phrases of metta to them. May you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy, may you live with ease. Feel the natural warmth in your heart as you wish them well. Let your genuine affection flow towards them with each phrase. There is no scarcity of kindness. Your heart has an infinite supply. Next, we gently stretch the muscle of the heart. Bring to mind a neutral person, someone you see often but do not know well. The cashier at the grocery store, the mail carrier, someone you pass on your commute. You have no strong feelings of like or dislike for them. Picture this person in your mind, and now extend the same wishes to them. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. Notice any resistance. Notice how this feels different. The practice is to see this person not as a stranger, but as another being who, just like you, wishes to be happy and to avoid suffering. We are expanding the circle of our care beyond the boundaries of our personal preference. The next stage should only be undertaken if you feel stable and ready. If it feels too difficult, simply stay with the other stages. Now, you can bring to mind someone with whom you have a difficult relationship. This is not about condoning harmful actions or forcing yourself to forgive before you are ready. This is a practice for your own heart. It is about freeing yourself from the prison of resentment. Holding on to anger is like holding a hot coal, intending to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. So, recognizing that this person is also a suffering being, driven by their own pain and ignorance, you can try to offer them the phrases, "May you be safe. May you be happy." You do this not for them, but for you. To release the poison of anger from your own heart and to find peace. Again, if this is too hard, be kind to yourself and return to wishing well for yourself or a loved one. Finally, we let the circle of loving kindness become boundless. Imagine the feeling of metta as a warm, golden light radiating from your heart. First, it fills your own body. Then, it expands to fill the room you are in. It expands outwards to fill your entire neighborhood, sending these wishes to all your neighbors. The light continues to expand, covering your city, your country, your continent. It extends to all people on earth. It includes all animals, in the air, on the land, and in the seas. It extends to all beings, seen and unseen, in all directions of space. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be healthy. May all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings everywhere live with a sense of ease. Rest in this feeling of boundless, unconditional friendliness for a few moments. This practice is a profound form of healing. When you fill your mind with these wholesome thoughts of loving kindness, there is simply less space for unwholesome thoughts of fear, jealousy, and anger. You are actively rewiring your own nervous system, training it to respond to the world and to yourself with kindness as its default setting. It dissolves the illusion of separation and eases the pain of loneliness, connecting you to the vast web of life. It is a gentle but powerful way to tame the elephants of your mind, creating the inner conditions for a truly deep and restorative rest. And as our heart opens with the sincere wish for all beings to be happy, a new question naturally arises. What happens when we see that they are not happy? What happens when our heart encounters their suffering? This leads us directly from loving kindness to its inseparable twin, the great virtue of compassion. Having planted the beautiful flowers of loving kindness in the garden of your heart, you have created a new atmosphere within you of warmth and gentle friendliness. When we sincerely wish for all beings to be happy, our heart naturally becomes more sensitive, more open, and an open heart inevitably notices a profound truth. Many beings are not happy. The world is filled with pain, struggle, and sorrow. The heart's natural response to the sight of this suffering is not to shut down, not to turn away, but to tremble with a feeling of deep empathy. This is the birth of karuna, or compassion. If loving kindness, metta, is the wish, may you be happy, then compassion, karuna, is its inseparable twin, the heartfelt wish, may you be free from your suffering. It is the next step in the expansion of the heart. It is the courage to move towards pain, rather than recoiling from it, and to meet it with a strength born of love. It is essential to understand that compassion is radically different from pity. Pity looks down from above. It says, "Oh, that poor person. I am so glad I am not in their position." Pity creates distance and reinforces the sense of a separate, superior self. It is a subtle form of judgment. Compassion, on the other hand, meets the other on level ground. It is a recognition of shared humanity. It says, "I know the feeling of pain. I see your suffering, and I feel it with you. We are in this together." Compassion dissolves the illusion of separation. It is the wisdom that understands that your suffering and my suffering come from the same universal root. There is a moving story from the Buddha's life that perfectly illustrates this active, courageous compassion. One day, while walking through the monastery, the Buddha came upon a monk who was terribly ill with dysentery. He was lying in his own filth, moaning in pain, completely alone. The other monks, repulsed by the smell and the sight of the disease, had neglected him entirely. The Buddha did not recoil in disgust. He did not simply offer words of pity from a distance. He went directly to the suffering monk. He then turned to his cousin and attendant, Ananda, and asked him to fetch some water. Then the Buddha, the great teacher himself, gently began to wash the sick monk's body with his own hands. He cleaned the monk's soiled robes and bedding, tending to his needs with the utmost tenderness and care, as a mother would for her child. After the monk was comfortable, the Buddha gathered the other monks together. "Why did you abandon your brother in his time of need?" he asked. He then delivered a powerful teaching that echoes through the ages. "Monks, you have no mother and no father here to look after you. If you do not care for one another, then who else will? Know this: whoever looks after the sick and the suffering is, in truth, looking after me." This is karuna in action. It is not a lofty sentiment. It is a practical, hands-on, courageous moving towards the reality of pain with the intention to alleviate it. It is the recognition that in tending to another's wounds, we are truly tending to our own. We can cultivate this courageous heart through the practice of compassion meditation. Just as with metta, we begin with ourselves, for we cannot offer true compassion to others if we are at war with our own pain. So, find a comfortable posture and gently bring your awareness inward. Allow a memory of a time you have suffered to gently arise in your mind. It could be a physical pain, an emotional heartbreak, a moment of failure, or deep loneliness. Instead of your habitual reaction, which may be to push it away or get lost in the story, simply allow the feeling of that suffering to be present in your body. Now, hold that younger, suffering version of yourself in your heart with great tenderness, as the Buddha held the sick monk, and offer yourself these phrases: "May I be free from this suffering. May I be healed. May I find my peace." You are giving yourself the gift of your own compassionate presence. You are learning to stay with your own pain without firing the second arrow of judgment or resistance. Now, bring to mind a person you love who is currently suffering. Perhaps they are ill or going through a difficult time. Picture them clearly in your heart. Feel their struggle, their pain, their fear. Let your heart tremble with empathy for them, and as you hold them in your awareness, extend to them the wish for healing. May you be free from this suffering. May you be healed of your pain. May you find your way to peace. As you breathe in, you can imagine you are breathing in their suffering, transforming it in your strong and loving heart. As you breathe out, you can imagine you are sending them waves of light, peace, and healing energy. You are not magically taking their pain away, but you are training your heart to meet it with love instead of helplessness. Then, when you feel ready, you can expand this circle of compassion to include all beings. Think of the suffering that exists in your own community, in hospitals, in places of conflict around the world. Think of the suffering of animals and the suffering of the earth itself. It is easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of it all, and the natural tendency is to shut down, to close the heart to protect oneself. The practice of karuna is the antidote to this shutdown. Instead of being overwhelmed, you simply hold the awareness of this suffering in your vast, boundless heart, and you breathe. With each breath, you cultivate the simple, powerful wish: may all beings be free from their suffering. May all beings be healed. You are not taking personal responsibility for fixing all the world's problems. You are taking responsibility for keeping your heart open in the face of reality. You are becoming a beacon of compassionate intention in a world that desperately needs it. This practice has a profoundly healing effect on our own mind. When we are mindfully connected to the very real and significant suffering of others, our own petty, self-centered problems begin to shrink. The rude comment someone made, the worry about a minor inconvenience, these things lose their power and their grip on our attention when held up against the backdrop of real hardship. It puts our own life into a much healthier and more balanced perspective. Furthermore, compassion is the ultimate destroyer of the ego. In a genuine moment of compassion, the feeling of a separate I who is helping a separate you begins to dissolve. there is only the suffering and the compassionate response. There is only the shared condition of being alive. This directly undermines the feeling of isolation that fuels so much of our anxiety. A compassionate heart is a courageous heart. It is no longer afraid of life because it knows that it has the capacity to meet both pain and joy with an open, tender strength. And as we cultivate the ability to be with happiness through metta and with suffering through karuna, we must then turn to a surprisingly difficult area, learning to be with the happiness and success of others. This requires us to face the shadow of envy and to cultivate its direct antidote, the beautiful quality of sympathetic joy. We have journeyed together into the open and tender heart, learning to meet the world with loving kindness and compassion. With metta, we cultivate the sincere wish for all beings to find happiness. With karuna, we cultivate the courageous wish for all beings to be free from suffering. These two wings allow our hearts to soar. But to navigate the winds of life, a third quality is needed, a quality that can at first seem surprisingly difficult to master. This is the practice of mudita, which is best translated as sympathetic or appreciative joy. Mudita is the ability to feel genuine, unselfish happiness in the good fortune, the success, and the well-being of other people. It is the heart that celebrates, without reservation, when another person shines. While this may sound simple, mudita directly confronts one of the ego's most deeply rooted and painful habits, the habit of comparison and envy. In a society that often trains us to compete, to measure our worth against the achievements of others, the success of another person can trigger in us a feeling of lack, of inadequacy, of being left behind. Mudita is the potent and liberating antidote to this poison. Let us first look honestly at the poison of envy. Envy is the painful feeling of poverty that arises in the presence of another's richness. It is the whisper of the ego that says, their happiness diminishes me, their success is my failure. It is a zero-sum game, played in the cramped prison of the self. When we feel envy, there is a distinct physical and emotional signature, a tightening in the chest, a sour feeling in the stomach, a narrowing of our perspective. The mind immediately goes to work, trying to devalue the other person's accomplishment. Oh, they were just lucky. They probably cheated. It's not that impressive anyway. We do this because their success feels like a direct threat to our own fragile sense of self-worth. Envy is a profound state of misery. It chains our own happiness to the misfortunes of others. To live in envy is to hope, consciously or unconsciously, that others do not succeed too much so that we can feel better about ourselves. This is a bleak and impoverished way to live, for in a world of nearly 8 billion people, there will always be someone who is, in some measure, more beautiful, more talented, more wealthy, or more fortunate than we are. Envy guarantees that we will always find a reason to suffer. Mudita offers us a radical way out of this self-inflicted prison. It operates on a completely different logic, the logic of abundance. It reveals the truth that happiness is not a limited resource. Joy is not a pie with a finite number of slices. Another person's happiness does not take anything away from the world. It adds to it. And through the practice of mudita, we can learn to share in that ever-expanding abundance of joy. Think of the pure, unselfish joy a loving parent feels when they watch their child succeed. When a toddler takes her first wobbly steps, the parent does not feel envy. They do not think, why can she walk and I already know how? They feel an expansive, electrifying joy that is shared. The child's triumph becomes the parent's triumph. Their hearts are connected. Mudita is the practice of expanding this parental heart to encompass all beings. It is the profound realization that by rejoicing in the happiness of others, we multiply our own opportunities for joy a millionfold. If your friend gets the job they were hoping for, instead of feeling a pang of envy, you can open your heart and share in their excitement and relief. Their joy becomes your joy. If you see a couple laughing together on a park bench, you can feel a moment of warmth, appreciating their connection. Their happiness becomes your happiness. If you hear a piece of beautiful music, you can feel a sense of appreciative joy for the talent and dedication of the musician who created it. Their creative success becomes a source of joy for you. When you practice mudita, the entire world transforms. It is no longer a stadium filled with competitors, but a vast and beautiful garden filled with countless blossoming flowers. You can delight in the beauty of every single one without needing to possess them. Your capacity for happiness becomes limitless because it is no longer dependent solely on your own personal, fluctuating fortunes. You become rich in joy. Like all qualities of the heart, mudita can be cultivated. We can practice it and strengthen it over time. The practice begins, as always, with someone for whom it is easy to feel happy. Bring to mind a dear friend or a beloved child. Think of a recent success they had, a moment of true happiness they experienced. Picture their smiling face, the light in their eyes. Now, instead of just feeling happy for them, try to feel the happiness with them. In your heart, you can silently say, "I am so happy that you are happy. Your joy brings me joy." Feel the warmth, the expansiveness, the delight of this shared feeling. Allow it to fill your heart. Then, you can make a gentle intention to carry this practice into your daily life. You can decide, today, I will actively look for the good fortune of others. It could be something small, noticing a colleague who is praised for their good work, seeing a family celebrating a birthday at a restaurant, reading about someone's inspiring achievement. In these moments, the old habit of the mind might be to ignore it, or even to feel a slight twinge of envy. The practice is to pause, take a single conscious breath, and then, in your mind, offer a genuine, wonderful, or how lovely for them, or may their happiness continue. You are consciously celebrating their good fortune, and in doing so, you are watering the seed of mudita in your own heart. What do we do when we notice the painful, constricting feeling of envy arise? The first step is to not judge or shame ourselves. Envy is a deep and ancient human habit. It is not a sign that you are a bad person. The practice is simply to meet it with mindfulness. Ah, there is the feeling of envy. I recognize this tightness, this sourness. Then, you can gently hold it with compassion, recognizing that this feeling comes from a place of fear and perceived lack within you. Finally, you can see if it is possible to pivot, even just a little, towards mudita. Can you find one small aspect of the other person's success that you can genuinely be happy about, even if the rest still feels difficult? Perhaps you can appreciate their hard work, or the fact that their success may also benefit others. This gentle, repeated practice of noticing, accepting, and pivoting is how we slowly, patiently retrain the mind and liberate ourselves from the prison of envy. Mudita is the radiant smile of the awakened heart. It is the ability to celebrate life in all its forms, to delight in the unfolding of goodness wherever it may be found. A heart that is steeped in loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy is a heart that is incredibly resilient, open, and at peace. It has learned to relate skillfully to happiness, to suffering, and to the good fortune of the world. Yet, to hold all of these vast and powerful emotions, one final quality is needed. We need a foundation of unshakable balance, a profound stability that is not swayed by the changing tides of life. This brings us to the fourth and final of the divine abodes, the great, quiet peace of equanimity. We have now walked through 3 of the 4 great chambers of the heart. We have opened the door to metta, loving kindness, the sincere wish for all beings to be happy. We have opened the door to karuna, compassion, the courageous wish for all beings to be free from suffering. And we have opened the door to mudita, sympathetic joy, the generous ability to celebrate the good fortune of others. A heart that can do these things is a beautiful, expansive, and deeply feeling heart. But to hold such powerful and vast emotions, stow love so broadly, to feel so deeply requires a foundation of profound stability. An unbalanced compassion can lead to burnout and despair. An ungrounded joy can become mere agitation. To perfect the heart, a fourth and final quality is needed. This quality is the ground upon which the other 3 stand. It is the deep, quiet center in the midst of the storm. This is upekkha, or equanimity. Equanimity is perhaps the most misunderstood of these virtues. It is often confused with indifference, apathy, or cold detachment. But this is a profound misreading. Indifference is a state of shutting down. It builds a wall around the heart and says, "I don't care." It is a state of fear, a refusal to feel. Equanimity is the exact opposite. It is a state of radical openness. It does not build a wall. It is the vast, open space of the sky itself. The sky of equanimity allows all things to pass through it. The brilliant sunshine of joy, the dark storm clouds of grief, the fierce winds of praise and blame, without being changed or disturbed by them. The sky does not cling to the sunshine, nor does it resist the storm. It allows them all to be, to arise, and to pass away, remaining in its own vast, silent peace. Indifference is a contracted heart. Equanimity is a boundless heart, so vast and stable that it is no longer shaken by the changing weather of life. It is the perfect balance of wisdom and love. It is the ability to care deeply, to love fully, and to act compassionately, without being thrown off balance by attachment to a particular outcome. There is a timeless Taoist story that perfectly captures the spirit of upekkha. An old farmer lived in a small village, and his most prized possession was a beautiful horse. One day, the horse broke through its fence and ran away. The farmer's neighbors all came to console him. "Oh, what terrible luck," they lamented. "Your only horse is gone." The farmer listened, nodded, and simply replied, "Maybe." A week later, the horse returned, and it was not alone. It had led a herd of 12 wild, magnificent horses back to the farmer's corral. The neighbors were overjoyed for him. "What incredible fortune," they celebrated. "You have gone from 1 horse to 13. The old farmer looked at the horses and said, "Maybe." The following day, the farmer's son was attempting to tame one of the wild horses when he was thrown violently to the ground, and his leg was badly broken. The neighbors rushed over, wringing their hands. "What a disaster," they cried. "Your son, your only help, is now crippled. This is truly bad luck." The farmer, looking at his son's pained face, calmly replied, "Maybe." A few weeks passed, and the emperor's army marched into the village. A war had broken out, and they were forcibly conscripting every able-bodied young man to fight. They went from house to house, taking the sons away to a battle from which few were expected to return. When they came to the farmer's house, they saw his son with his broken leg, and so they passed him by. The neighbors, awestruck, came to the farmer. "You were right all along," they said. "Your son has been spared. Your bad luck was actually good luck." The old farmer looked out over his fields, and for the final time, he said, "Maybe. This farmer is a master of equanimity. He lives without clinging to the labels of good or bad. He understands that he cannot see the full picture, the intricate web of cause and effect that ripples out from every event. He doesn't ride the wild roller coaster of elation and despair. He rests in a spacious, wise acceptance of what is. This is the peace of upekkha. It is the ability to stand firm and balanced in the face of the 8 worldly winds, the unavoidable gusts of life that constantly threaten to blow us over. These 8 winds come in 4 pairs: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, and fame and disrepute. Life will inevitably bring us all of these things. We will experience moments of great pleasure and moments of physical or emotional pain. We will experience material gain and we will experience loss. We will be praised by some and blamed by others. We will have moments of fame and recognition and moments of being forgotten or misunderstood. The practice of equanimity is to learn to meet all of these experiences with the farmer's wisdom. When pleasure comes, we enjoy it fully, but without clinging, knowing it is impermanent. When pain comes, we feel it with compassion, but without adding the second arrow of resistance, knowing that it, too, will pass. When we are praised, we accept it graciously, but we do not let it inflate our ego, knowing that praise is just the opinion of another. When we are blamed, we listen carefully for any grain of truth we can learn from, but we do not let it crush our spirit, knowing that blame is also just a passing storm. In the quiet of the night, this practice is your greatest ally. As your mind presents you with memories, you can meet them with equanimity. A memory of a past success, a moment of praise, arises. Instead of clinging to it and creating a story of pride, you can simply note it. Ah, praise. and let it go. A memory of a past failure, a moment of blame, arises. Instead of being swept away in a storm of shame, you can note it with the same calm spaciousness. Blame, and let it go. You can see your anxious thoughts as dark clouds, your happy thoughts as bright clouds, and you can remember that you are not the clouds. You are the vast, silent, and ever peaceful sky that holds them all with perfect, unshakable balance. This practice does not kill emotion. It creates a container so strong and so vast that all emotions can be felt fully without destroying you. This is the perfection of the heart. Metta, loving kindness, is the sun that wishes to warm every being. Karuna, compassion, is the rain that wishes to soothe every parched land. Mudita, sympathetic joy, is the gentle wind that delights in the blossoming of every flower. And Upekkha, equanimity, is the deep, stable, and patient earth that provides the ground for them all. A heart that has been trained in these four ways is a heart that has found its home. It is a heart that is truly free, capable of boundless love, yet unshakably at peace. With this profound stability of heart and mind, we are now prepared to journey even deeper, beyond the realm of emotion and into the clear, luminous light of ultimate wisdom. With a heart made stable and spacious by the four divine abodes, we are now ready to journey deeper. We have cultivated the beautiful qualities of the heart, and now we turn our attention to the penetrating wisdom of the mind. We move from the path of devotion to the path of profound insight. This path is illuminated by a collection of teachings known as the Prajna Paramita, or the perfection of wisdom. These teachings are not about accumulating more knowledge or intellectual concepts. They are about cutting through our confusion to see reality directly. And the most beloved, most potent, and most concise expression of this wisdom is found in a short text called the Heart Sutra. It is the very essence, the living heart, of these profound teachings. To understand its power, we must first understand the scene in which it was delivered. Imagine the Buddha, seated in deep meditation on a mountain peak, surrounded by his community of monks and great enlightened beings. The air is thick with a powerful silence. A great bodhisattva, a being dedicated to the awakening of all, is present. It is Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of compassion whom we met earlier. But here, he is not just feeling compassion, he is practicing the perfection of wisdom, looking deeply into the nature of his own being. As he looks, he has a world-changing insight. He investigates the 5 components that make up what we call a self or physical form: our feelings, our perceptions, our mental habits, and our consciousness. He looks at them with the laser-like clarity of his meditation, and he sees that every single one of them is, by its very nature, empty of a solid, separate, independent existence. In that moment of seeing, he is liberated from all suffering. Another great disciple, the wise Shariputra, empowered by the Buddha's silent presence, notices Avalokiteshvara's profound realization. He is moved to ask the crucial question on behalf of everyone: how does one who wishes to practice this deep perfection of wisdom proceed? The entire Heart Sutra is Avalokiteshvara's direct reply. He explains that form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. He declares that all the components of our being are empty, and therefore, in the realm of ultimate truth, there is no birth and no death, no purity and no defilement, no gaining and no losing. It is a radical undoing of all our cherished concepts. At the very end of this powerful teaching, Avalokiteshvara declares that all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future awaken through reliance on this perfection of wisdom. He then proclaims that this wisdom is, itself, a great mantra, a mantra of great knowing, a supreme mantra, an unequaled mantra, capable of alleviating all suffering. It is, he says, utterly true and not false. And then he speaks the mantra. It is a sound that encapsulates the entire journey of liberation. It is the sound of going beyond. The mantra is Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasarg Gate, Bodhisvaha. Let us listen to this sound not just with our ears, but with our entire being. It is a story, a process, and a joyful shout of arrival, all in one. It begins. Gate pronounced ga-te. It means gone. It is the first step. It is the departure from this shore, the shore of our ordinary life, which is characterized by suffering, confusion, and the endless cycle of grasping and aversion. It is the moment you turn your back on the familiar land of your own ego and set out on the water. It is a courageous act of renunciation. The mantra repeats, gate, gone. The repetition is not for nothing. It deepens the resolve. It signifies a complete and determined departure. We are not just taking a short trip. We are truly leaving behind our old habits, our old stories, our old, limited ways of seeing ourselves and the world. We are gone, gone. Then it expands. Paragate, paragate. This means gone beyond. We have not just left the shore of suffering, we have successfully crossed the river. We have arrived on the other shore. This other shore is nirvana. It is the land of peace, clarity, and freedom, characterized by the wisdom that sees reality as it is. It is the attainment of the goal, but it deepens even further. Parasagate, parasamgate. This is the most compassionate and profound part of the journey. It means completely gone beyond, or everyone gone beyond together. The journey is not just a solitary achievement. It is not just I have made it to the other shore. It is that we have made it. The Sangha, the community, all beings have arrived together. This dissolves the final, subtle trace of the ego that might take pride in its own personal enlightenment. Awakening is a collective liberation. We arrive together, or not at all. Then, the destination is named Bodhi. Bodhi. This means awakening, or the awakened mind. This is what the other shore is. It is not a place, but a state of seeing. It is the mind that has woken up from the dream of ignorance. It is light, it is clarity, it is freedom itself. And finally, the joyful affirmation, svaha, swaha. This is a sacred exclamation, like so be it, or it is accomplished, or hail. It is the sound of planting a flag of victory on the other shore. It is a cry of relief, of joy, of celebration for the truth and the possibility of awakening. So, the mantra tells the entire story. Gone, gone, gone beyond. Everyone gone completely beyond, to the shore of awakening. So be it. It is not a request. It is a triumphant proclamation of what is possible. As you listen to this mantra in the quiet of the night, let it work on you. You don't need to analyze it further. Let the sound itself be the teaching. Feel it as a call, pulling you away from the small, circular worries of your day-to-day life. With each repetition of gate, feel yourself letting go of a burden, a resentment, a fear, a fixed idea of who you are. With Paragate, feel the relief of arriving at a place of peace. With Parasag Gate, feel your heart expand to include all beings in this peace. With Bodhi, feel the possibility of your own inner light. And with Svaha, simply rest in the truth of it all. This mantra is a powerful tool for cutting through our conceptual minds. It doesn't ask us to believe in a doctrine. It invites us to undertake a journey. It is a journey beyond words, beyond the self, beyond suffering, and into the luminous, open heart of reality itself, the reality of what the sutra calls emptiness. The mantra of the Heart Sutra has led us to the very edge of a profound mystery. It has guided us to the other shore of wisdom, a shore defined by a single, powerful, and often misunderstood word, emptiness. In the sutra, the great Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara looks down at the components of his own being and declares that they are all empty. For many, this word can sound terrifying. It conjures images of a cold, black void, of nothingness, of a denial of life itself. It can seem like a nihilistic and depressing conclusion, but in the wisdom of the Buddha, the teaching on emptiness, or shunyata, is the absolute opposite of a void. It is not a negative teaching, but the most liberating, hopeful, and revolutionary truth of all. It is the key that unlocks the prison of our own mind. To understand this, we must first ask the most important question: empty of what? The answer is simple and profound. Things are not empty of existence. They are empty of a separate, independent, unchanging existence. They are empty of a fixed, solid self or essence that stands apart from everything else. We have already touched upon this. We saw that the sheet of paper is empty of a separate self because it is entirely full of not paper things. The sun, the cloud, the rain, the forest, the logger. We saw that our own body is empty of a separate self because it is entirely full of not body things. The food, the water, the air, our ancestors. This law applies to everything. A wave in the ocean is empty of a separate, independent wave self. It is made entirely of water. It cannot be separated from the ocean. Its existence as a wave is temporary, dependent on the wind and the water around it. Its reality is that it is water. This is the nature of all phenomena. Nothing exists on its own, from its own side. Everything arises in dependence upon other things. A flower depends on the seed, the soil, the sun, and the rain. A conversation depends on two people, a shared language, and the air to carry the sound. Our happiness depends on countless causes and conditions. Because everything is dependent on other things, nothing has a fixed core identity. Its identity is fluid, relational, and ever-changing. This lack of a solid, independent essence is its emptiness. It is not that the flower does not exist, it is that it does not exist in the solid, separate way we imagine. To understand the beauty and freedom of this, consider the simple utility of a cup. What makes a cup useful? It is precisely its emptiness. If the cup were a solid block of clay, it would be useless for holding liquid. Its function, its very cupness, is defined by its empty space. The emptiness is not a lack, it is its potential. It is what allows it to receive, to hold, and to offer. The mind is just like this. A mind that is filled to the brim with solid, rigid ideas, with prejudices, with a fixed sense of self, is a useless mind. It cannot learn anything new. It cannot feel empathy. It cannot adapt. But a mind that understands its own empty naturits, lack of a fixed, solid ego is a mind that is open, spacious, and full of potential. It can receive the world with curiosity, hold the suffering of others with compassion, and offer wisdom without arrogance. Its emptiness is its freedom. Emptiness, then, is not a dead void, but the vibrant womb of all possibility. Because things are empty of a fixed nature, they are free to change, to grow, to evolve, to interact. A tiny seed is empty of being a great oak tree, and because of that emptiness, it holds the astonishing potential to become one. If the seed were a solid, unchanging, permanent seed thing, it would be a dead pebble, incapable of growth. Its emptiness is its dynamism. The universe is not a sterile museum filled with static objects. It is a luminous, creative dance of interconnected energy. Emptiness is the dance floor upon which this cosmic dance unfolds. It is the ultimate freedom that allows life to be life. How does understanding this great truth help us as we lie here in the dark, wrestling with our own mind? Its effects are profound and practical. First, it liberates us from the tyranny of our own judgments. We place heavy, solid labels on everything: good person, bad person, success, failure. We treat these labels as if they were permanent realities. But when we see that all people and all situations are empty of a fixed essence, the labels lose their power. That person you are angry with is not a solid bad person. They are a complex, changing process, just like you, full of causes and conditions that have led them to this moment. Seeing their emptiness allows your anger to soften into understanding. The failure you are replaying in your mind is not a permanent stain on your soul. It was a temporary event, a process that has already changed and passed. Seeing its emptiness allows you to let it go. Second, it liberates us from the exhausting habit of clinging. We grasp and cling to thingsto our youth, our wealth, our relationships, our identity, because we believe they are solid and real. We try to hold on to a fistful of water. When we understand that all these things are empty, interdependent processes, like flowing water, our white-knuckled grip can finally relax. We can learn to participate in life fully and joyfully, without the desperate need for it to be permanent. We can love more freely because we are not loving a static idea, but a dynamic, changing being. We can live more bravely because we are not so attached to a specific outcome. Finally, and most profoundly, Understanding emptiness liberates us from our deepest fear, the fear of our own annihilation. Our greatest terror is that this I will be extinguished. But as we have seen, when we look for this solid, separate I, it cannot be found. We are not a thing that can be destroyed. We are a process that is constantly changing. We are not the wave. We are the water. The wave will rise and fall. Its form will disappear, but the water remains, ready to become the next wave. When we know ourselves not as a fragile object, but as a part of the vast, interconnected, and eternal flow of life, the fear of death loses its ultimate power over us. When a painful thought or a wave of anxiety arises in the night, you can meet it with this wisdom. You can see that it is empty. It is not a solid monster. It is a flicker of energy, dependent on causes and conditions, arising in the vast open space of your awareness. It has no inherent power to harm you. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to believe it. You can simply allow it to arise and allow it to pass, like a cloud drifting through the empty sky of your mind. This is the great freedom of shunyata. It is the realization that because everything is empty of a separate self, nothing is truly separate. Form is emptiness, and that very emptiness allows form to appear in all its infinite, beautiful, and ever-changing variety. Seeing this, we are led to the next unavoidable and magical conclusion. Because we are all empty of a self, we are all completely and inextricably connected to one another. We are ready now to explore the luminous web of interbeing. The profound wisdom of emptiness has cleared the ground. It has dismantled the illusion of a solid, separate self, showing us not a void of nothingness, but a space of infinite potential. Now, on this cleared ground, we can build a new and beautiful understanding of who we truly are. If we are empty of a separate self, what are we full of? The positive expression of emptiness is the luminous truth of interbeing. This term, from the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, is a key that unlocks the heart of reality. It tells us that to be is always to interbe. Nothing in the entire cosmos can exist by itself. Everything is profoundly connected to and made of everything else. This is not a sentimental poem or a philosophical theory. It is the literal truth of our existence, and seeing it can heal our deepest sense of loneliness and fear. Let us return once more to the humble sheet of paper. We have already seen that the cloud and the sun are within it, but now let us look with the eyes of interbeing, and we will see the entire cosmos there. Can you see the wheat field that provided the bread for the logger's lunch? If you see the wheat, you must also see the earth that nourished it and the rain that watered it. Can you see the logger's parents? Without them, the logger would not exist, and the tree would still be standing in the forest. If you see the parents, you see their parents, and a whole lineage of ancestors stretching back through time. Look again, and you will see the miner who dug the iron ore that became the steel for the logger's saw. You see the mind of the engineer who designed the saw, and the knowledge of the teachers who taught the engineer. You see the river that may have carried the logs to the mill, and the fish that swim in that river. The paper is full of all these things. If you were to return just one of these elements to its source, give the cloud back to the sky, the sunshine back to the sun, the earth back to the ground, the sheet of paper could not possibly exist. It is here now because the entire universe has conspired to bring it into being. You, lying here in the quiet of the night, are exactly the same. You are a manifestation of the entire cosmos. Look deeply, and you will see the sun in the warmth of your body, energy from food that grew through photosynthesis. You will see the clouds and the rivers in the water that makes up more than half your weight. You will see the earth in the minerals within your bones. You will see your parents, your grandparents, and countless generations of ancestors in the elegant code of your DNA. You contain multitudes. Every person you have ever met, every book you have ever read, every meal you have ever eaten, every breath you have ever taken, they are all within you. You are not a separate, skin-encapsulated ego. You are a living, breathing node where the entire universe converges, becomes conscious, and looks out upon itself. There is a magnificent and ancient image from Buddhist cosmology that helps us visualize this reality. It is the image of Indra's net. Imagine a vast, infinite web stretching out in all directions. It is a net woven from threads of light. At every single intersection of the threads, there hangs a single, brilliant, multifaceted jewel. The net is structured in such a way that the polished surface of each jewel reflects every other jewel in the entire web. And if you were to look closely at any one of those reflections, you would see that it, in turn, contains the reflections of all the other jewels. And so this continues, on and on, into infinity. Each jewel is a single being, a single event, a single moment. You are one of these jewels. I am one of these jewels. Every thought, every raindrop, every star is one of these jewels. Our very existence is defined by this mutual reflection. Your joy sends a glimmer of light across the entire net, causing every other jewel to shine a little more brightly. Your sorrow casts a shadow that subtly touches every other jewel. We are utterly, inextricably, and beautifully interconnected. Nothing we do is ever in isolation. Our smallest act of kindness vibrates across the entire web. Our smallest act of cruelty sends a tremor of pain through the whole. This is the reality of interbeing. To truly feel this in your heart is to be transformed. The painful illusion of loneliness, the feeling of being a single, isolated fragment, dissolves. How can you be lonely when you know that you inter with the moon, the stars, the ancient trees, and every other heart beating on this planet? You are not separate. You are a vital part of a magnificent whole. This understanding is also the true basis for compassion. When you see another person suffering, you no longer see a separate other. You see a fellow jewel in the net, and you know that their suffering is your suffering. The desire to help, to soothe, to protect, is no longer a moral calculation. It is the spontaneous and natural response of the whole organism trying to heal one of its parts. To harm another being becomes a logical absurdity, as it is no different from your left hand deliberately harming your right. This is also the deepest foundation for a true ecological consciousness. We are not humans living on the earth. We are the earth. The earth is our larger body. The water in the rivers is the same water that flows in our blood. The air in the atmosphere is the same air that fills our lungs with each breath. To pollute the air, to poison the water, to destroy the forests, these are not just acts of environmental carelessness. They are direct acts of self-harm. They are a desecration of our own extended body. When we know we are the net, we cannot help but care for every one of its precious threads. So, as you rest here, allow your sense of self to soften and expand. Feel the boundary of your skin become porous. Feel the air you breathe in not as something external, but as the world entering you, and the air you breathe out as you entering the world. Feel your heartbeat as a rhythm shared with all living creatures. You are not just in this room, you are in the cosmos, and the cosmos is in you. You are not a lonely spectator of life. You are life itself, experiencing itself. When we see this, when we begin to truly feel this profound interconnection, the old idea of looking for a refuge, a savior outside of ourselves to protect our little ego, starts to fall away. If we are the whole, where could we possibly find a refuge that is not already a part of us? This realization opens the door to a new and much deeper understanding of what it means to take refuge. We begin to look for it not in a place, but in a principle, not in an external being, but in the very nature of reality itself. Having realized through the wisdom of emptiness and interbeing that we are not isolated islands, but are intrinsically part of a vast, interconnected whole, the very idea of what it means to find safety begins to shift. The human heart has a deep and natural longing for refuge in a world that is constantly changing, a world of gain and loss, pleasure and pain. We all seek a safe harbor, a place of unshakable security where we can rest our weary hearts. Traditionally, we seek this refuge in things outside of ourselves. We seek it in wealth, believing money can protect us. We seek it in relationships, believing another person can complete us. We seek it in status and reputation, believing admiration can make us feel secure. But as we have seen, all of these external things are subject to the law of impermanence. They can and will change. To place our ultimate trust in them is to build our house upon the sand. The Buddhist tradition offers a different kind of refuge, a refuge in what are known as the three jewels, or the three treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. But to truly understand this, we must look beyond the surface and discover the profound, internal meaning of these three precious jewels. The first jewel is the Buddha. On the outer level, taking refuge in the Buddha means honoring the historical figure, Siddhartha Gautama. We see him not as a god to be worshipped, but as a human being, just like us, who woke up. He is the great physician who correctly diagnosed the human condition and prescribed the path to its cure. He is the guide who walked the path before us and showed us that it is possible to find the end of suffering. His life is a testament to human potential, a source of profound inspiration. But the deeper, more intimate refuge is not in the historical person of the Buddha, but in the principle of Buddhahood itself. This is the truth of our own Buddha nature. It is the teaching that within every single one of us, no matter how confused or hurt we may be, there exists a seed of perfect wisdom, clarity, and compassion. It is the vast, open, sky-like nature of our own mind, which is never truly stained by the passing clouds of our thoughts and emotions. To take refuge in the Buddha is to take refuge in this innate potential within yourself. It is a radical act of trust in your own capacity to awaken. It is to stop looking outside for a savior and to begin trusting the luminous, knowing quality of your own awareness. The outer Buddha is the one who points to the moon. The inner Buddha is the moon itself, the radiant, peaceful nature of your own mind. The second jewel is the Dharma. On the outer level, the Dharma refers to the teachings of the Buddha. It is the collection of scriptures, the discourses, the methods and practices that have been passed down through generations. It is the map given to us by the guide. It is the detailed prescription written by the great physician. We study these teachings, we contemplate their meaning, and we apply them to our lives, using them as an invaluable tool for navigating our inner world. They are a raft to help us cross the river of suffering. The inner refuge, however, is in the Dharma as the ultimate truth of reality itself. This Dharma is not contained in any book. It is the unspoken law of the cosmos, the law of cause and effect, the law of impermanence. The truth of interbeing this is the true Dharma. The rising and setting of the sun is the Dharma. The way a seed grows into a tree is the Dharma. The arising and passing of a thought in your mind is the Dharma. To take refuge in the Dharma is to align your life with reality as it is, rather than how you wish it would be. It is a commitment to seeing truthfully and a willingness to let go of the illusions that cause you pain. It is the deep recognition that wisdom is not something you acquire from an external source, but a clarity you uncover by paying mindful attention to the unfolding of life, moment by moment. The third jewel is the Sangha. On the outer level, the Sangha is the community of fellow travelers on the path. Traditionally, this referred to the community of monks and nuns. In a modern context, it can mean any group of spiritual friends who support, inspire, and challenge one another in their practice. No one can walk this path entirely alone. We need the mirror of our friends to see our own blind spots. We need their encouragement when we feel discouraged, and we need their presence to remind us that we are not alone in our journey. This outer community is precious and essential, but the inner, most profound refuge of Sangha is a direct realization of the truth of interbeing. If we are all connected, if we all inter-are, then our Sangha is, in fact, the entire universe. We take refuge in the web of life that supports and sustains us in every moment. The solid earth beneath you that holds you up is your Sangha. The air that you breathe, a gift of the trees and the oceans, is your Sangha. The sun that provides the energy for all life is your Sangha. The farmers who grew your food, the people who built your home, every being that contributes to your existence is part of your Sangha. To take refuge in the Sangha is to let go of the arrogant illusion of the self-sufficient individual and to humbly accept your place within the great community of all that is. It is to draw strength, not just from a few friends, but from the entire cosmos. To take refuge in these three jewels, then, is to make a profound shift in orientation. It is a turning away from the unreliable shelters of the world and a turning inward towards the truth of our own nature. This is perfectly captured in the Buddha's final words. As he lay dying, his disciples were weeping, asking who would guide them, who would be their refuge, now that he was leaving. The Buddha uttered his last instruction. Therefore, he said, be a lamp unto yourselves, be a refuge unto yourselves. Take no other refuge. Let the Dharma be your lamp and your refuge. Seek no other. This is the ultimate statement of spiritual empowerment. The Buddha is your own innate light. The Dharma is the truth you can see for yourself. The Sangha is the interconnected reality you are already a part of. To take refuge is to finally come home. And it is from this place of deep inner safety, from this unshakable refuge in our own true nature, that we can find. We have traveled far on this inner journey, from witnessing the sting of the second arrow, to understanding the ceaseless turning of the wheel of craving. We have looked into the nature of our untamed minds, and stood by the river of impermanence. We have even dared to deconstruct the very idea of a solid, unchanging self, finding not an empty void, but an interconnected, flowing process. This understanding, this deep seeing into the way things are, does not lead to a cold, intellectual conclusion. It leads, naturally and compassionately, to an action, or perhaps, more accurately, a profound and gentle non-action. It leads to the art of letting go. Imagine you are walking on a long journey, and on your back, you carry a large, heavy sack filled with stones. You have been carrying it for so long, you have forgotten what it feels like to walk without it. The weight has become a part of your identity. You are the one who carries the heavy sack. Each stone has a name. One large, jagged stone is a mistake you made many years ago. You pick it up and examine it every day, feeling its sharp edges, reminding yourself of your failure. Another stone is a hurtful word someone said to you, smooth and dark, and you can't seem to put it down. Another is the heavy weight of an old resentment, a grievance you keep warm with your anger. There are stones of expectation, stones of fear about a future that has not happened, and stones representing the person you think you should be, a heavy, polished ideal you can never quite match. You walk, stooped and tired, adding more stones to the bag with each passing year, believing that this is simply the way the journey must be. The path of wisdom asks a very simple question. Why are you carrying all of this? And what would happen if you simply chose to set it down? Letting go is the natural consequence of wisdom. It is not an act of force. You do not have to wrestle your burdens to the ground. The Buddha used a simple, powerful analogy. If you are holding a burning piece of coal in your hand, you do not need to engage in a long philosophical debate about whether you should drop it. You do not need to command yourself with great willpower, I must drop this coal. The very moment you become fully aware that the coal is burning you, that it is the source of your pain, the letting go is effortless. The hand opens by itself. Our practice, therefore, is not about the force of dropping, but about cultivating the clarity to see that we are holding burning coals. The guilt, the resentment, the fear, these are hot coals that we clutch in our fist, believing that we must hold them, believing that they define us. And all the while, we are the only one getting burned. Let us look into this sack of stones we carry, this collection of hot coals. The heaviest are often the stones of the past. We carry our mistakes like sentences, replaying them in our minds, judging ourselves with a harshness we would rarely inflict upon a friend. We believe, in some strange way, that this continuous self-flagellation is productive, that it will somehow prevent future errors, but it does not. It only keeps the wound fresh, preventing it from ever truly healing. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. To learn from a mistake is to understand it, to see its causes and conditions, and to integrate that understanding into our present actions. To cling to a mistake is to be chained to a ghost. Letting go of past failures is an act of profound self-compassion. It is looking at the person you were with kindness, acknowledging that they did the best they could with the understanding they had at the time. You are not that person anymore. The river has flowed. To let go is to grant yourself a pardon, to finally come home to the present moment, which is the only place where life is actually happening. Perhaps the most potent story about this kind of burden is that of two Zen monks on a pilgrimage. One was senior, the other a junior, and they had taken vows that included not touching a woman. They walked for many miles, their silence punctuated only by the sound of their feet on the path. Eventually, they came to a river where the bridge had been washed away. The current was strong. A young woman in a beautiful kimono stood there, looking distressed, unable to cross. Without a word, the senior monk walked up to her, lifted her onto his back, waded carefully through the rushing water, and set her down gently on the other side. He bowed and continued his journey. The younger monk was aghast. He hurried to catch up, his mind a storm of judgment. How could he do that? He broke his vows. He, a senior monk, touched a woman. For hours, he walked behind his teacher, the inner monologue of criticism growing louder and louder. He imagined confronting him. He rehearsed the words of accusation. The anger and confusion churned within him, a heavy, toxic stew. Finally, as evening approached and they were nearing their destination for the night, he could not bear it any longer. He rushed forward and confronted the older monk. "Master," he said, his voice trembling with indignation, "we have taken a vow not to touch women. Back at the river, you picked up that woman and carried her. How could you do such a thing?" The old monk looked at him, his face calm and his eyes gentle. He smiled softly and said, "I left that woman by the river hours ago. Are you still carrying her?" This story is a perfect mirror for our own minds. The actual event was brief, an act of simple compassion. It was over in minutes. But the younger monk, through his clinging, through his judgment and his storytelling, carried the woman with him for miles and for hours. The burden was not the woman. The burden was his own mind. How many of us are still carrying people and events from years, even decades ago? An insult from a colleague, a betrayal by a friend, an injustice we suffered. The event is long gone. The person may have forgotten all about it, but we keep them alive in our minds, giving them free rent in our precious mental space. We carry them. We think our resentment is punishing them, but it is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Letting go of resentment does not mean condoning the other person's actions. It does not mean you have to become their friend or pretend that what happened was okay. It simply means you are no longer willing to carry the burning coal. It is an act of liberation for yourself. It is the declaration that your inner peace is more important than their past transgression. You set them down at the side of the river and you walk on, free. We also carry the heavy stones of expectation. We have a detailed script of how our lives should unfold, how our partners should behave, how our careers should progress. We cling to this script as if it were a sacred text. And when reality, in its messy, unpredictable, and glorious way, deviates from our script, we suffer. We become angry, disappointed, and bitter. Letting go of these rigid expectations is not the same as having no goals or aspirations. It is about holding our goals lightly. It is the difference between having a map and being willing to take a beautiful, unexpected detour. It is about participating fully in the dance of life, rather than trying to force the orchestra to play only your song. You can still work towards a better future, but you do not attach your entire sense of well-being to a specific, narrow outcome. You find joy in the process, grace in the improvisation. You let go of how you think things should be, so you can fully embrace them as they are. Finally, the most subtle and pervasive burden is the fixed identity we carry. We tell ourselves, "I am an anxious person. I am not a creative person. I am a failure." We mistake these labels, these thoughts, for our true being. As we have seen, the self is not a static noun, but a dynamic verb. It is a process. To let go of these identities is to let go of the bars of a cage you did not realize you were in. When you release the thought, "I am an anxious person," you create space for peace to arise. When you release the thought, "I am not good enough," you create space to discover your inherent worth. This is not about self-deception. It is about recognizing that a thought is just a thought. It is a cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness. You are the sky, not the cloud. The art of letting go is a continuous practice, not a one-time event. It is a moment-by-moment choice. It begins with noticing. You use your mindfulness to feel the clenching in your stomach, the tightness in your jaw, the familiar loop of thought that signals you are carrying something heavy. You acknowledge it without judgment. Ah, here is the stone of resentment again. I see it. Then, you can use the breath as your ally. As you breathe out, you imagine a gentle loosening of your grip. You are not pushing the thought or feeling away. You are simply softening the space around it, allowing it to be there without clinging to it. With each out-breath, you let go, just a little more. You will find that you have to do this again and again. You will put the stone down, and a few minutes later, you will find it back in your hand. This is not a failure. This is the practice itself. Each time you notice and gently let go again, you are strengthening the muscle of liberation. You are teaching your mind a new habit, the habit of freedom. You are learning that you don't have to carry it all. You can set down the sack of stones, feel the lightness in your shoulders, stand up straight, and walk on. Not as a beast of burden, but as a free being, traveling light on this extraordinary path. We have arrived at the final vista of our long exploration. We began with the simple, painful awareness of our own suffering, the second arrow we fire into ourselves. We journeyed through the landscapes of craving, impermanence, and the illusion of a solid self. We learned to tame the wild horses of the mind, to sit with compassion, and to practice the gentle, liberating art of letting go. A question naturally arises from this. After all the letting go, after all the unburdening, what remains? When the fires of our anguish are no longer fed, what is the nature of the space that is left behind? The answer points toward a word that is both famous and deeply misunderstood. That word is nirvana. For many in the modern world, the word nirvana conjures images of a distant, hazy paradise, a reward for a life well lived, a heaven filled with clouds and harp music. Or perhaps it suggests a total annihilation, a snuffing out into a bleak nothingness. The original wisdom of this path, however, presents a vision that is infinitely more practical, more immediate, and more profound. The word nirvana in the ancient Pali language literally means to extinguish or to blow out. It is not the extinguishing of the self or of life itself. It is the extinguishing of the three fires that cause all of our self-inflicted suffering: the fire of greed and craving, the fire of hatred and aversion, and the fire of ignorance and delusion. It is not a place you go to after you die. It is a state of being you can realize in this very life, in this very mind. It is the ultimate destination of the inner journey, a destination that was, paradoxically, here all along. To grasp the nature of this state, let us use an analogy we have touched on before: the ocean. Imagine that your life, your mind, your entire experience is the ocean. For most of us, we live our entire lives on the surface. The surface is a place of constant activity. Waves rise and fall with the winds of fortune. Sometimes the sun shines, the water is warm and pleasant, and we call this happiness. This is the experience of praise, of gain, of pleasure. At other times, storms rage, the waves are violent and cold, the sky is dark, and we call this suffering. This is the experience of blame, of loss, of pain. We spend our days and nights reacting to the surface conditions, celebrating the calm, fearing the storm, constantly tossed about by forces we feel we cannot control. Our identity is fused with the state of the waves. If the waves are calm, I am happy. If the waves are rough, I am miserable. This is the ordinary human condition. The path of wisdom, the journey to nirvana, is a journey not across the surface, but a journey downwards, into the depths. As you descend from the turbulent surface, a remarkable transformation occurs. The noise begins to fade, the violent motion subsides. The deeper you go, the more profound the stillness becomes. Down in the great, dark, silent depths of the ocean, the storms on the surface are of no consequence. A hurricane could be raging a mile above, but here, there is only a vast, unshakable, and profound calm. This is not an empty or dead calm. It is a stillness that is alive, full of silent potentiality. This deep, abiding peace of the ocean's depths is the closest we can come to describing nirvana. The enlightened being, the one who has touched this state, has not left the ocean. They have not magically levitated out of the water to escape the waves. They have simply changed their point of identification. They have realized that their true nature is not the fleeting, ever-changing wave on the surface, but the vast, deep, and serene ocean itself. The storms of life may still come. The winds of praise and blame will still blow. The body will still age. Loved ones will still pass away. Moments of physical pain or sadness will still occur. The waves still happen on the surface. But because the anchor of their being now rests in the silent depths, they are no longer capsized by the waves. They can experience the storm with a heart that remains spacious and at peace. The sadness is felt, but it does not drown them. The joy is felt, but it does not create the frantic clinging for more. There is a fundamental ground of being, a bedrock of serenity, that remains untouched by the drama on the surface. This is freedom. It is crucial to understand that this state is not one of cold indifference or emotional numbness. It is the absolute opposite. When the frantic, chattering noise of the egoth, constant, "What about me? What do I want? What do I fear?" is extinguished, you can, for the first time, truly experience the world. It is a state of supreme sensitivity. The taste of a single raisin on the tongue becomes an explosion of complexity and sweetness. The sight of sunlight filtering through a leaf becomes an event of breathtaking beauty. The sound of a bell can resonate through the entire universe. When the mind is no longer projecting its own stories, fears, and desires onto reality, it can finally perceive reality as it is in all its vibrant, naked, and miraculous detail. Furthermore, this state is not an empty void, but a radiant fullness. It is empty of the poisons of greed, hatred, and ignorance. And in that pristine emptiness, something luminous has space to shine. Compassion is no longer a practice you have to strive for. It becomes the natural radiation of a heart that sees no fundamental separation between itself and others. When you see deeply that the other is part of the same ocean of being as you, to harm them is to harm yourself, and to help them is to help yourself. Actions born from this state are not calculated or contrived. They flow with a natural, spontaneous grace and wisdom. There is no more agonizing over what to do, because the doing arises from a place of deep clarity and connection. This is not the end of the journey, so much as it is the beginning of a new way of living. It is not a static state of bliss, where one simply sits under a tree forever. It is the foundation for a life of meaningful and compassionate engagement with the world. The one who has touched the depths of the ocean no longer fears the waves, and so they can skillfully navigate the surface, helping others who are still caught in the storm. This is the great ideal of the Bodhisattva, the enlightened being who postpones their own final peace to remain in the world, motivated by immense compassion to help all other beings find their way to freedom. The peace we have been seeking, the serenity that the person stuck in traffic was yearning for, the freedom the hamster on the wheel could not find, was never in a new possession, a different relationship, or a future achievement. It was always here. It is the silent, deep, and aware nature of our own mind, buried beneath the accumulated noise of a lifetime. The entire spiritual path is not a process of adding anything to ourselves, not a new belief, not a new identity. It is a process of subtraction, of patiently and kindly removing the layers of delusion, fear, and craving that obscure the luminous peace that has been our birthright all along. It is the simple, yet most profound discovery that you are not the wave, tossed about by every wind. You are, and always have been, the entire, vast and silent ocean. We began this journey together in a familiar place, in the quiet desperation of a traffic jam, illuminated by the cold light of a screen, feeling the relentless motion of a wheel that leads nowhere. We started with the profound and universal ache of the human condition, the sense that something is fundamentally missing, the quiet anxiety that hums beneath the surface of our busy lives. We were a victim of the world, struck by the first arrow of misfortune, and then, unknowingly, we pierced ourselves again and again with the second arrow of our own reaction. Our path has been one of turning inward, not to escape the world, but to understand our relationship to it. We walked through the realm of the hungry ghost, recognizing its insatiable appetite in our own endless chase for the next thing. We saw our minds as a chariot pulled by wild horses, and learned that the reins of mindfulness were always within our reach. We stood before the great river of impermanence, and instead of trying to build a dam against its flow, we learned the wisdom of floating with it. We dared to look at the very architecture of ourself and found not a solid fortress to be defended, but an open, flowing process, free from the prison of a fixed identity. From this seeing, we found the courage for the ultimate act of self-compassion, the art of letting go, of setting down the heavy stones of the past and the crushing weight of expectation. And so we return to the central question: where does this leave us? What is the ultimate message carried from the ancient world into our modern chaos? It is this: the peace that we so desperately seek is not the absence of problems. The traffic will still jam, the storms will still gather on the horizon, loss and disappointment will still visit. The world will continue to be the world. The profound shift, the true liberation, does not come from changing the world outside, but from cultivating a new quality of being within. Peace is not a destination you arrive at once all your problems are solved. It is the ability to maintain a calm and spacious heart right in the middle of the storm. It is the discovery of a deep inner silence that is not disturbed by the noise outside. The ultimate wisdom of this path is the realization that peace is not something you find, it is something you become. It is not an acquisition, but a homecoming. It is the natural state of a mind that is no longer at war with itself, a heart that is no longer armored against life. You do not need to retreat to a monastery or shave your head to walk this path. Your place of practice is right here, in your office, in your kitchen, in your relationships, in your own beautiful, complicated life. The tools are not esoteric or out of reach. The primary tool is your own breath, a constant, faithful anchor to the present moment. The tools are a moment of mindful awareness while you wash the dishes, a word of kindness offered when anger would be easier, a conscious choice to let go of a small resentment. The journey of 1,000 miles, as the old saying goes, begins with a single step, and the journey to inner freedom begins with a single, conscious breath. The path is here. The tools are yours. The journey begins now.